lecture, not the marketing management. So normally I used to have the marketing management at the end of the course, but still the person or the lecturer that who was supposed to do the lecture today, that she's unfortunately she is out of the country, right? So just because of that, I thought to take this two sessions because I just wanted to get you engaged with the program because I thought now no need to give more holidays because you had enough, right? Let's start. So when it comes to the marketing management, unlike the other subjects, you have three sessions. So today itself, and also there will be two more weeks. Not the consecutive මේකෙන් පස්සේ කෙලින් වෙන weeks නෙවෙයි. ආයි පස්සේ මැදදී මම කියන්න දවස් සති දෙක. තව සති දෙකක අපි උගන්වනවා marketing management. So just because of that, we are not in a hurry because when it comes to you guys that you have a very small number of chapters to do in marketing, but still we have 3 weeks. So what I'm going to do is today we will be covering only for 3 hours, right? So there will be a mini lecture today. So we will be having the lectures only for 3 hours today and tomorrow itself, right? So let me start with this. When it comes to the marketing management, so I don't know whether the people, I mean, there might be some of the students who have already studied marketing somewhere, and also there might be some of the students who have no idea about what is marketing. So generally, we start and we pre-assume we start with this mentality. I mean, we think that you don't have any kind of an idea, so we are starting from the basic points. So that's what we have to do, right? So when it comes to the marketing, so what does it mean by the marketing? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වලට marketing කිව්වහම මොකද්ද ඔළුවට එන්නේ? සමහර වෙලාවට මිනිස්සුන්ට marketing කිව්වම, so when it say marketing, sometimes people think it's advertising, right? Sometimes people think it's selling. So is it really selling and advertising? So if not, what is the difference between selling and marketing? So this is what we basically going to study in this particular chapter. Right, Lama. So when it comes to the marketing, Lama, so it is totally different from advertising. So advertising is a kind of a very small component in marketing, right? So when it comes to the selling, so you're selling in the sense that you try to sell something, so then your interaction with the customer is over, right? But when it comes to the marketing, so it's go beyond selling, right? So that's why we say that now we are in a kind of a marketing era. Right. So when it comes to the marketing, so just before we talk about the definition of the marketing, so there are several definitions that has been given by the market, given for the marketing. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි ගත්තාම සමහර subjects වලට ඒවා control කරන regulate කරන institutions තියෙනවා. So when it comes to the marketing, that there are two main institutions known as CIM, Chartered Institute of Marketing, so which is based in UK, as well as when it comes to the US, that they have American Society of Marketing, right? So these are the two main bodies that regulate and give the definitions for the marketing. And also when it comes to the marketing, that there is a person who called Philip Kotler. So we take him as the marketing guru in modern era. And so most of the definition and most of the books that I refer, not only me, because when it comes to most of the marketing lecturers that they use his reference. So just like any other one, I'm also using the reference. I'm also using the Philip Kotler's books as reference. Right? So when it comes to the marketing, so basically marketing in a sense, Lama, so the customers are there. So when it comes to the customers that they have needs and wants, so you try to satisfy these needs and wants. And when you're satisfying the needs and wants, that you have to create a profit for the organization. So this is what we call marketing. සාමාන්‍ය marketing කියලා කියන්නේ ඔන්න ඔකට. හරිද? අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඉස්සෙල්ලාම definition එකට එන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපි definition එක ගැන පස්සේ කතා කරමු. We'll talk about the definition little later. So just before we talk about the definition, let me tell you something, right? So when it comes to the marketing, so it's all about the needs and wants. And customer කෙනෙක් දෙයක් ගන්න. අපි මොකද මේ definition එකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා අපි කතා කරමු core concepts ගැන. ඊට පස්සේ අපි කතා කරමු definition එක ගැන. Right? So first we do the second and third slides and then go to the first slide in order to define this marketing. So when it comes to marketing, there are core concepts in the marketing. හරිද? marketing වල තියෙන සමහර ප්‍රධාන items ටිකක් ඔයාලා දැනගන්න ඕන. පළවෙනි එක තමයි needs, wants and demands. So why people are buying things? මිනිස්සු purchase කරන්නේ. So that is the first thing. Right? Then the next thing is why people are buying things and how can we satisfy their needs and wants. So that is the second thing. Right? මේක පිළිවෙලට යමු. ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රශ්න පහක් තියෙනවා. මාකටිං වලට මේ core concepts වලට අඳුරගන්න නම් there are 5 questions to be answered. So the first thing, why people are buying things? Why people are buying things? ඇයි මිනිස්සු purchase කරන්නේ දෙයක්? ඇයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ purchase කරන්නේ? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් උදේ නැගිට වෙලාවෙ ඉඳන් ඔයාලා use කරන products and services තියෙනවානේ. So once you get up in early morning ඉස්සෙල්ලාම කරන්නේ දත් මදින එකනේ කවුරු හරි. එහෙම නැතුව දත් මදින්න ගත්තාම ටූත් බ්‍රෂ් එකක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා, ටූත් පේස්ට් එකක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මූණ හොදනවා. ඒකට සබන් කෑල්ලක් හරි ෆේස් වොෂ් එකක් හරි යූස් කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මොනවද? ඊට පස්සේ තේ එකක් හදනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ මිල්ක් පවුඩර් බ්‍රෑන්ඩ් එකක් යූස් කරනවා. එක්ක නැත්නම් ඒකට ටී මොන හරි බ්‍රෑන්ඩ් එකක් යූස් කරනවා. කොහොම ඔයාලා පර්චේස් කරන දේවල්නේ. දැන් අද මගෙන් ඔයාලා ලෙක්චර් එකක් ගන්නවා 9ට. ඒකත් සර්විස් එකක්. මේකට මට කැම්පස් එකෙන් පේ කරනවා. හරිද? So I mean need these things. ඔයාලා පේ කරනවා. ඔයාලා නිකන් දෙන්න දෙයක් නෙවෙයි. ඔයාලා කෝස් ෆී එකක් පේ කරලා දෙනවනේ. ඒ ගන්න කෝස් ෆී එකෙන් මට campus can pay karna lecture. So this is also a purchasing, buying and selling. So you have a need and you buy something. And so why you are buying something? Then well I may toothpaste එකක් හරි milk powder එකක් හරි ඒ වගේ දේවල් purchase කරන්නේ ඇයි? ඔයාලගේ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් තියෙනවා. You have needs and wants. Right? So this is why people buying things. We'll talk about the needs, wants and demand little later. So basically you should understand why people are buying things. Why people are buying things? Because they have needs and wants. Right? So that's why they are buying. So the second question is, how can you satisfy their needs and wants? So as a company, as an organization, කොහොමද ඔයාට පුළුවන් එයාගේ needs and wants satisfy කරන්න? Right? So in that case, you have the products and services in market. Right? දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් milk දැන් ඔයාට මොන හරි අපිට කන්න දෙයක් ඕන. හරිද? බඩගින්නක් එනවා. බඩගිනිනවා. කන්න ඕන. කන්න ගත්තාම කොච්චර දේවල් තියෙනවද මාකට් එකේ කන්න? Or නිකන් rice and curry කන්න පුළුවන්. Or else you can have a pizza from Pizza Hut or a burger from KFC or the Burger King. And so there are many people who supplies the products and services. So if you need the financial services, you go to a bank. So there are several banks who supplies these services. So when it comes to the products and services, so how your needs and wants and satisfy? කොහොමද මිනිස්සෙගේ needs and wants satisfy කරන්න පුළුවන් organization එකද? So that is through the products and services. So that is the second question. What was the first question? First question was why people are buying things. So the second question was, right, how you're going to satisfy the customer needs and wants. So that is the second one. Right? So the third one is the value of satisfaction and quality. Right? So the step again. So as I said you before, so the first question is what motivates the consumers to take actions, or else why people are buying things. So as I said you before, people that they have needs and wants. What are the needs? What are the wants? So what's the difference between the needs and wants? මොකද need එකක් කියන්නේ මොකද්ද want එකක් කියන්නේ දෙක එකද නැත්නම් දෙකේ වෙනසක් තියෙනවද? Need එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ දනු හැමතිස්සෙම. So that is a kind of a, I mean when you once you want that you have to survive. හරිද? අපිට survive වෙන්න ඕනේ මිනිස්සු විදියට අපි survive වෙන්න ඕනේ. So in order to be survive that you have some necessities. So these are known as the needs. Right? So when it comes to needs, in a sense, something that you need to spend your the basic life. So that is known as the needs. Right? Then we are, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, so I need something to drink, I need something to eat. Right? So I need to wear something. I need the shelter to live. Right? So that is there. So needs are there. Right? Then the next thing is the wants, Amma. So wants in a sense, so that is a kind of an extension of the wants, needs, right? Whether I'm going to eat rice and curry, or whether I'm going to eat pizza, burger, or whether I'm going to have a fine dine in a kind of a super class restaurant in Kingsbury or somewhere else. So that is known as the wants. Right? So when it comes to the human needs, so that is always shaped up by the culture and the individual personality. Right? So that is known as a want. Right? The need can be extended up to the wants. Right? So that is there. බලන්න හැමතිස්සෙම මතක තියාගන්න සමහර රටක wants සමහර රටක needs වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right? දැන් අපේ රටේ වගේත් අර කොවිඩ් හැදිච්ච වෙලාවේදී අපිට මේක බාර දැන් හොඳටම තේරුණානේ. කොවිඩ් හැදිච්ච වෙලාවලදී සමහර යුරෝපියන් කන්ට්‍රීස් වල මිනිස්සුන්ව ගෙවල් ඇතුළට කරලා තියාගන්න මාර අමාරු වුණානේ. අයියේ කැම ටික ඔක්කොම දුන්නොත් ඒ මිනිස්සුන් ඇතුළට කරලා තියාගන්න බෑ. ඒක අපි කොහොමද? කැම ටික දීලා ඇතුළට වෙලා ඉන්න කිව්වොත් අපි අවුරුද්දම වුණත් ගෙවල් ඇතුළට වෙලා හිටියයි. අයියේ අපේ needs and wants වෙනස්. අපේ needs වල නැහැ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ need එකක් තමයි ළමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඒගොල්ලෝ එළියට යනවා. So they get out, they go in evening that they go to a pub, then they have a beer. So these get-togethers are kind of an important crucial items in their day-to-day life. So it's becoming a kind of a need in their life. But ඒක need එකක් නෙවෙයි. අපේ එක want එකක්. මේක තමයි මම කියන්නේ සමහර රටවල දැන් අපිට පීට්සා එකක් කියන්නේ ටිකක් ලොකු දෙයක් වගේ වුණාට වෙන රටකට එහෙම පීට්සා එකක් කියන්නේ ලොකු දෙයක් නෙවෙයි. Right? ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ day to day ඒගොල්ලෝ කන කැමති it's a need. Right? So that is what I wanted to tell you. So when it comes to the needs and wants, Lamai, sometimes wants of another country might be a need of another country. So that is there. So the wants, please always understand that the wants are always shaped up by the culture and the individual personality. So that is there. So I think that you have got a kind of a clear idea about what is need and what is want. So what's the difference between the needs and wants? Right. So now what is need meant by the demand? මොකද මේ demand එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ? සමහර වෙලාවට ළමයි though you have the need, sometimes you can't purchase it. Right? කියන්නේ අපිට මොන හරි දෙයක් purchase කරන්න නම්. So if you need to complete a purchase, right, there are two criteria to be satisfied. මොකද්ද? ඔයාලා දෙයක් purchase කරනවද නැද්ද කියන එක රඳාපවතින determinants එක මොකක්ද? එකක් තමයි මම ඒක purchase කරන්න කැමති වෙන්න ඕනේ. Right? So my willingness. Right? So that is there. So the next thing, sometimes I like to buy it, but I don't have money. Right? So then will you be able to make the purchase, implement the purchase? No. Right? So you have the willingness as well as your purchasing capacity has to be there. So in order to complete a purchase, there are two things that you have to complete. So the first thing is that your desire to buy, and the second thing is that your capacity to buy. So when you fulfill these two criteria, then only you can create a demand. මං කියන එක තේරුණා නේද? මිනිස්සු ටිකක් ඉන්න ඕනේ ගන්න කැමති වගේම ගන්න සල්ලි තියෙන. එතකොට තමයි demand එකක් create කරන්න පුළුවන්. Sometimes I have money but I still don't like to buy it. What will happen? Then will it create a demand? No, it doesn't create a demand. And so that is why I said that the human wants has to be backed by buying power. Right? So that is there. Right? So this is the order that it goes. ඉස්සෙල්ලාම අපිට need එක කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? මට තියෙන I am thirsty, I need something to drink. So the wants, whether I'm going to drink water or Coca-Cola, right? So that is shaped up by my individual personality and the culture. Whether I'm going to have a fruit juice, whether I'm going to have Coca-Cola, whether I'm going to have fresh water. Right? So that is depend on my individual personality and the culture. So then how can I create a demand? So I need to buy Coca-Cola. So I decide to buy, and also I like to buy, as well as I should have money to buy it. Right? So this is what the difference between the need, wants, and demand. I think it's clear, right? Now, what will satisfy the consumer needs and wants? So this is the second question. So what was the first question? So the first question was that what motivate consumers to take actions? Why people are buying things? Right? So we say that is needs and wants. So that create demands. And the next thing is, how can you satisfy the consumer needs and wants? Whom the customer, consumer, the customer, consumer, they keep putting in a we'll talk about that difference a little bit later. Customer is someone who purchased the product. Consumer, in a sense that he is the person who gonna consume it. Sometimes the customers might buy the particular product for the consumers. දැන් අපි හිතමු අපි පුංචි කාලේ අපේ අම්මලා තාත්තලා අපිට purchase කරපුවා ඒගොල්ලෝ නෙවෙයි consume කරේ. අපි consume කරනවා. එතකොට මම consumer, අම්මලා තාත්තලා තමයි customers ලැබෙන්නේ. So that's the difference between the customer and the consumer. Sometimes if you just think about the once again. Right. So that's the difference between the customer and the consumer. Sometimes the customer might be the consumer too. දැන් ඔයාලා කඩේට ගිහලා ඔයා Coca-Cola එකක් No, so you are the customer as well as you are the consumer. Sometimes there might be a certain incidents where the customer is different from the consumer. So customer is buying on behalf of the consumer, right? So that is there. So that's the difference between the customer and the consumers. Anyway, here we are going to talk about what will satisfy the consumer's needs and wants. So, what are the things that you should do in order to satisfy the consumer's needs and wants? So, what is the company offer? So that they offer products and services. So, what is product and what is the service? So, you should have an idea about this. That the product sense, Lama, so that might be anything that can be offered to the market or the or customers to get their attention, and it's something that they can use in order to satisfy their needs and wants. So we call them as the product. So service is also something similar. සර්විස් එකක් කියන්නේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් කියන්නේ හැමතිස්සෙම ඔෆර් එකක් ඔෆරින් එකක් හරිද ඒ කියන්නේ ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකක් කම්පැනි එකක් දෙන මොකක් හරි ඔෆර් එකක් කස්ටමර්ගේ හරි කන්සියුමර්ගේ හරි needs and wants satisfy කරන්න. අතට මොකද එතකොට මේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකේ සර්විස් එකේ තියෙන වෙනස? So what is the difference between the product and services? You know that, right? So when it comes to the product number, you can touch it. මේවා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් දන්න දේවල්. ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් ගත්තාම ඒක tangible, so you can touch it. But when it comes to the services, those are not tangible. You cannot touch it. Right? And also when it comes to the product owner, it is already made. So it is totally independent from the person who's going to deliver it. Right? So we call it as the separability, inseparable. When it comes to the services, that they are inseparable. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් ඔයා ගත්තොත් මම අද දෙන්නේ ඔයාලගේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක මොකද්ද මගේ තියෙන්නේ? ලොන්නෙච් එකක් කරනවා. මගේ සර්විස් එකක් තියෙන්නේ. දැන් මම මේක මේ කලින් හදලා තිබ්බ එකක්ද? ඒ කියන්නේ මම මේක රෙකෝඩ් කරලා හැම එකක් නෙවෙයිනේ. මම මේක දැන් promptly ඔයාලට live දෙන session එකක්. right? එතකොට මම මේ අද session එක දෙනකොට ඒකෙදි ඒ කියන්නේ මට ඒක කලින් හදාගෙන ආපු දෙයක් නෙවෙයි ළමයි. මේ වටපිටාවේ වෙන දේවල් වෙන මට මොකක් හරි මගේ health issue එකක් තියෙනවා නම් නැත්නම් technical මොකක් හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් so that will definitely impact towards my service. Sometimes my service might be different from the දැන් මේ marketing ගත්තාම මම මේ අවුරුදු ගාණක් තිස්සේ 10කට වැඩි ගාණක් තිස්සේ උගන්වන්න එනවා. right? ඒ lectures ගත්තාම ඊයේ කරපු එකට වඩා ඉස්සෙල්ල පුළුවන්. Probably it might be different from today to tomorrow. අද මම මේ කරන lecture එකම හෙට කරන විදිහට ඉස්සෙන්න පුළුවන්. It's a service. price cooker එකක් ගත්තා කියලා, laptop එකක් ගත්තා කියලා. අද ගත්තොත් HP මොකක් හරි මොඩල් එකක් හෙට ගිහිල්ලා ගත්තත් වෙන කවුරු ගත්තත් so most of the time that is most similar. පොඩි defects මිනිස්සුන්ට තියෙනවා. ඒ වුණාට සාමාන්‍යයෙන් හරිම අඩුයිනේ defects production process එකේදී වෙන. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ගත්තාම product එකක් කියන්නේ it's already made. ඉන්න එක්කෙනා product එක දෙන එක්කෙනා hina වෙලා දුන්නද කතා කරලා දුන්නද ඒක වැඩක් නැහැ. අන්තිමට ඔයාට product එක වැඩ කරනවා නම් so that's all. Right? So that is there. So it's you can separate it from the person who's going to deliver it. When it comes to the services, you cannot separate it from the person who's going to deliver it to you. Right? So that is there. So this uniformity, so as I said before, homogeneity, the product homogeneous. Right? So when it comes to the sum of the models, right, then ගත්තොත් phone එක model එකක ගත්තොත් එක phone එකකින් අනිත් එකකට එකම model එක නම් ඒ product එක සමානයි. So homogeneous. But when it comes to the services, right, we got the marketing lecturers like you. What are you going to happy mage lectures කරන විදියට නෙමෙයි කෙනෙක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් marketing පැත්තකට දාන්නකො. lecturer කෙනෙක් කිව්වහම දැන් ඔයාලා ඊට කලින් lecturers ලා දැකලා ඇති. එයාලා කරන විදිය වෙනයි කරන එකකින් එක්කෙනාගෙන් එක්කෙනාට වෙනස් lectures කරන විදිය. So that's what I wanted to say. So they're heterogeneous. Not only a particular, not only the among the lecturers, but if you just think about one particular lecturer, right? So his lectures, as I said you before, my lectures, right? So when it comes to my lectures, that the today's lectures might be different from the tomorrow's lectures. So that is there. And also when you go to have a haircut, right? අපි හිතාගෙන යනවා ගිය පාර ලස්සන මෙයා කැපුවේ අද කපයි කියලා සමහරට ඒක හරියට එන්නේ නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So that is there. Right? So when it comes to a bank, airline, hotels, so there are many determinants, many factors that might determine the services. Right? So that's the difference between the products and services. So when it comes to the products, they are tangible, services intangible. So when it comes to the products, that they can be separable, and services inseparable. When it comes to the products, they are homogeneous. When it comes to the services, they are heterogeneous. And so these are the stuff. Right? So when it comes to the products, you can store it somewhere. Right? Right. When it comes to the services, Can you store it somewhere? No, you will not be able to store it somewhere. Right? So this is the difference between the product and services. So this is how. So the products and services. These are the things that you use to satisfy your consumer needs and wants. අපි අපේ consumer needs and wants satisfy කරන්න try කරන්නේ මෙන්න මේ කියන products and services through. Right? So that is the second question. So what was the first question? Why people buying things? So the second one is how can you satisfy the consumer needs and wants? Right? So the next thing is how do consumer choose among the products and services? When it comes to the products and services, when you have some kind of needs and wants, now in order to satisfy your needs, that you're going to buy something. That might be a product, either product or service. So when it comes to these products and services, so there might be a lot of organizations, lot of competitors in the market who provides the similar product and service. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට දැන් මම කියන උදේම දත් බදිනවා කියලා toothpaste ගන්නකො. දැන් toothpaste එකක් ගන්න ගියහම market එකේ තියෙනවා toothpaste කීයක්ද brands තියෙනවා 10කට වැඩිය. හරිද? දැන් මේ කියන ඒවායින් ඇයි ඔයා specific brand එකක් ගන්න. So sometimes it might be Colgate, sometimes it might be Colgate, sometimes it might be Sensodyne, sometimes it might be Superior, Sudanta, Signal, whatever. So why you stick to a particular brand? Why do the consumers choose among several products and services? So that is also something really important. Now, when you are buying things, when you are buying a product, marketing when customer buying a particular product, that they don't buy that particular product. They buy the value of that particular product. උදාහරණයක් විදිහට ගත්තහම ඇයි ඔයා සෙන්සොඩයින් එකට අක්ෂර ගාණක් දීලා ගන්නේ සුදාන්ත එකක් ගන්නේ නැතුව? ඇයි දත් මදින්න නැතුව අලුත්ම දත් සෙට් එකක් උදේ පාන්දර එනවා දරකවින් නැත්නම් නැහැ. ඒක නෙමෙයි සමහර වැලියු කරනවා ළම. දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් වාහනයක් ගත්තොත් අපි හැමෝටම තියෙන වාහනේ ට්‍රාන්ස්පෝර්ට් නෑ වාහනේ පැත්තකට දාන්නකො ෆෝන් එකක් ගත්තොත් අපි හැමෝම කරන්නේ කාට හරි කතා කරන එක. ඇයි එතකොට අපි සමහර ඒවාට මෙච්චර ගණන් දීලා phones models අනම්මනම් බලලා brands බලලා ගන්නේ. Why some people buy Android phones or the Samsung? Why some people buy Apple? Why this? Because that they have some value. සමහර වෙලාවට brand recognition එක සමහර කට්ටිය කැමති ඕකේ මම Apple එකක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා කියලා පෙන්නන්න. සමහර අය කැමති මම Mercedes Benz එකක් එහෙම නැත්නම් Audi එකක් BMW එකක් Porsche එකක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා කියලා පෙන්නන්න. Right? So that is this value. And so when it comes to the Sensodyne, people have like, okay, this is something recommended by the doctors, right? So this might be something really good quality. Pay for that value. value එකක් තියනවා කියලා දැක්කම මිනිස්සු ඒ value එකට pay කරනවා. Sometimes if you just think about a particular two phones from two brands like Samsung and Samsung and Apple, sometimes that you have more features in Samsung for a low price, but still people go for the Apple phone. Why is that? Because of some brand value. Right? So this is known as the customer value. So these are known as the benefit that the customer gains from having that particular product. Right? So that is the cost that he going to bear for. He going to bear to have that particular product. Right? So this is known as the customer value. Right, so when you add value, please understand. So when you add kind of a feature up to a product, that you have to understand the customer value. Customer කැමති දෙයක් තමයි add කරන්න ඕනේ. මොකද customer ඒකට pay කරන්න ලෑස්ති වෙන්න ඕනේ. So that is known as the customer value. So when you have different number of brands in the market, but still the customer buy your product because of this customer value. That මේ තියෙන competition එක අතරේ customer කෙනෙක් විශේෂයෙන්ම ඔයාගේ product එක ගන්න ඒකට තියෙන specific value එකක් හින්දා. අපි උදාහරණයක් ගත්තොත් milk powder ගත්තොත් අපි හිතමු පැලවත්ත තියෙනවා, Highland තියෙනවා, ඊළඟට Anchor තියෙනවා, Maliban තියෙනවා. සමහරවිට Maliban ගන්න කෙනෙක් ගන්නවා ඒක ඉක්මනටම dissolve කරන්න පුළුවන්, දේ කරන්න පුළුවන්, ලේසියෙන් හදන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. පැලවත්ත කෙනෙක් ගන්න පුළුවන්, no, it's our product, so we believe it. So they don't have harmful what do you call ingredients or anything. Right? So that's what they value. Right? Customer value. Okay. So the next thing is customer satisfaction. So what does it mean by the customer satisfaction? What are the customer satisfaction? Now, when you are buying something, purchase you have some kind of expectation. අපි සාමාන්‍ය මොකක් හරි ඔයාලා මේ course එක කරන්න කලින් හිතන මේ කෝස් එක පටන් ගන්න කලින් ඔයාලට හිතෙනවා මොන හරි එක්ස්පෙක්ටේෂන් එකක් තිබ්බා right මේක යුනිවර්සිටි එකෙන් කරන්න හොඳ ලෙක්චරර්ස්ලා කරනවා ඇති හරිද මේක ගත්තාම මොකක් හරි මාකට් එකේ ලොකු දෙයක් මොන හරි හොඳ recognition එකක් හම්බ වෙනවා ඇති we sometimes probably we might be able to go to a foreign degree this might be a kind of a base for that so you might have some expectations හරිද expectations තියනවා හරිද then the course එකට ආවනේ now what you feel අන්න ඒකට තමයි කියන්නේ perceived value එක. So just before you purchase something that you have expectations. So once you have purchased something, value that you get is known as perceived value. දැන් හිතන්නකො ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න කලින් හිතනවා රයිට් මේක නියමයි මේක මෙහෙම වැඩ කරයි මෙන්න මෙහෙමයි කියලා හිතලා ගන්නවා. ගත්ත ගමම මාසෙකින් ෆෝන් එක කැඩෙනවා. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ perceived value එක. So when it comes to the expectation value and the perceived value කියලා දෙකක් තියෙනවා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔයාගේ expectation එක. So if your expectation equals to your perceived value then we call those type of customers as the satisfied customer. මම කියන එක තේරෙනවද? අපේ ඔයාගේ perceived value එක ගත්තට පස්සෙත් ඔයාට හිතුණා තාරයි මං හිතුවා වගේම මේක අවුරුදු 3ක් විතර පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි මේක නියමයි මේක user friendly හැමතිස්සෙම මේක කැමරා එක නියමයි එහෙම කියලා ඇත්තටම හිතෙනවා නම් ඔයාට එයා ගන්න කලින් හිතපු දේම ඔයාට මේකෙදි හම්බ වෙනවා නම් so we call them as the customer satisfaction we call this concept as the customer satisfaction. Right. So the customer satisfaction in a sense, when the customer's expectation value meets the customer perceived value, right? So that is known as a customer satisfaction. So you should have an idea about the customer expectation as well as the perceived value. And හිතන්නකෝ bank එකට යනවා. ඔෆිස් එකට ගිහිල්ලා කියනවා හරි අද හදිස්සියෙමට බැංක් එකට යන්න වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා ලන්ච් අවර් එකේ කියනවා හරි මට පුළුවන් වෙයි ලන්ච් අවර් එකේ ඇතුළත එන්න මම ටක් ගාලා ගිහින් එන්නම් කියලා යනවා. ඔන්න බැංකුවට යනකොට බැංකුවේ තියෙනවා queue එක දොර ගාවෙන්න එහා. right මොකද වෙන්නේ? පැය දෙකකුත් ඉවර වෙලා ලන්ච් hour එක කෙසේ වෙතත් ඊට පස්සේ short leave එකක් දාලා එළියට යන්නයි වෙන්නේ ඔෆිස් එකේ. දැන් ඔයා මොකද satisfied? So your expectation was to finish this particular task within 1 hour, but now it took more than 2 hours. So what will happen? Now the customer is dissatisfied, right? So suppose now you went there, right? So you thought that you will be able to finish it within 1 hour. You did it and you came within the lunch hour. So what will happen now? Now you are satisfied customer because what you reach whatever you expected. Right? So that is known as customer satisfaction. Probably there might be situation like incidents like this, Lamai. So sometimes that your perceived value might go beyond the expected value. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි හිතුව පැයකින් කරන් ඉන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. එතකොට බැංකුව නියමයි ඉක්මනට අඬ ගහලා ලන්ච් අවර් එකේ නේද කියලා අහලා මේ පැය භාගෙන් වැඩේ කරලා දෙනවා. ඉක්මනටම යනවා. ලන්ච් අවර් එක ඉවර වෙන්නත් කලින්. So now you are a delight customer because you expected to finish it within 1 hour but they finished it within 30 minutes. So now you are back. So you are really happy you have because your perceived values go beyond your expected value. So this is known as the delighted customer scenario, right? So when it comes to the customer satisfaction, so that is known as that is depends on your perceived performance, perceived value as well as the expected value, right? So normally this is depend. I mean, when it comes to the customer satisfaction, some quality එකත් එක්ක ගොඩක් වෙලාවට total quality management එකත් එක්ක relate වෙනවා. Right, so this is known as the customer value and the customer satisfaction. So when it comes to the marketing, so you cannot forget this particular term, the customer value. So it is a kind of a very crucial item when it comes to the marketing, crucial concept. Right, so this is our third question. Right. So what was the first question? Why people are buying things? Why people are buying things? Because that they have needs and wants that create demands. And the second question was that how the organizations fulfill the consumers' needs and wants. So that is through the products and services. So we have identified the difference between the products and services. So then the third question was, when there are a number of products and services in the market, why the customers buy a specific product or service? Right. So that is because of the customer value and it creates the customer satisfaction. Right. And now learn about the fourth question, right? So how do the consumers obtain products and services? So when it comes to the markets, that there are products and services in the markets, so that how you can obtain these products and services. අපි කොහොමද මේවා අපිට ගන්නේ? මේ position එකට ගන්නේ. Right? So when it comes to this, it's a kind of a hierarchy. හරිද? මේක සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ hierarchy එකක් විදිහට. හරිද? මෙතනදී තමයි ඔයාලා ඉගෙන ගන්න. This is the place where you basically understand the difference between the selling and market. Right? So the first thing is exchange. Exchange කියලා කියන්නේ ළමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් so you give something and in return you will be getting something. Right? So that is a kind of an act of obtaining whatever the desired product from someone offering something in return. අර අපි barter system එක කියලා කියන්නේ ඉඟුරු දීලා මිරිස් ගත්තා කියන්නේ ඉඟුරු දුන්නා මිරිස් ගත්තා. So it's a kind of an exchange. Right? So if you can remember that there was a kind of a barter exchange that the government agreed upon. අර අපි කිය ටී දීලා මොකක් හරි crude oil හරි මොන හරි ගන්න කියලා කතාවක් කිය. So that is a kind of a barter system, right? So exchange in a sense that product එක මාරු කර ගන්නවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් සර්විස් එකකට සර්විස් එකක් මාරු කර ගන්නවා. අර ඒ කාලෙම ආවේ මම කියන්නේ මේ ගොඩාක් ඒ කියන්නේ මුලින් පටන් ගත්තේ money කියන එක මාකට් එකට එන්න කලින් මුදල කියන එක money මාකට් එකට එන්න කලින් මිනිස්සු කළේ exchange කරන එක. මිනිස්සු අර තමන්ගේ මොකද්ද තමන් වගා කරපු දෙයක් දීලා එක්ක සතෙක් ගත්තා එළුවෙක් දීලා බැටළුවෙක් ගත්තා එහෙම කරේ. So that is known as exchange, right? So exchange in a sense that you obtain something, a kind of a product or a service from someone by offering one product or another product or a service, right? So that is known as the exchange. So then came the transaction. Transaction in a sense that when it comes to your product, but it has a value. So the money came into the market, right? So you buy something by giving money, right? So that is known as the transaction. So the transaction is more similar to the selling, right? So the selling in a sense that you buy something by paying for it. අපි මේක මොකක් හරි product එකක් ගන්නවා ඒකට සල්ලි ගෙවලා. ඒකට අපි කියනවා transaction එක කියලා. ඒකට තමයි අපි අන්තිමටම selling කියලා කියන්නේ. Then comes relationship. අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලාම transactions හරි selling හරි ගත්තට පස්සේ මොකක් හරි බලන්න හිතන්න. දැන් ඔයාට price ටික එකක් ඕනේ. හරිද? ඔයා මොකද කරන්නේ? price ටික එක ගන්නවා ක්‍රෙඩිට් ගිහලා සල්ලි දීලා price ටික එක ගත්ත ඉවරයි. එහෙම නැත්නම් car එකක් යන so you need to buy a car. Right? So you just go and you check your model and then you pay for it and you purchase it. Now it's over. You don't have a kind of a relationship with the car owner or the merchant anymore. So that is known as the transaction. The relationship marketing in a sense, Lama. So you create a relationship. Build long time relationship with your customers. Then අපි ගත්තට පස්සේ අපි ගත්තොත් Toyota එකකින් අපි ගත්තා නම් කාර් එකක් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේම purchases වලට යනවා ඒගොල්ලන් කියන්නේ අපි ගන්න supplementary ඒව ගන්න යන්නේ එතන තමයි service කරගන්න යන්නේ එතන තමයි right the original ඒවමයි ගන්න right. So that is there. So you create a relationship. You build long time relationship with the customers. So this is marketing. So that is how the marketing is different from the selling. So මෙන්න මේ විදිහට තමයි selling කියන concept එක marketing එක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ. Selling වලදී ආවිලා so you purchase it. So the customer at a particular point customer and the seller meet each other. So you do your exchange based on the money. Right, the money dina ekene product එක ගන්න. Then you switch off your transaction and you say buy and then you will leave. Right. Then there won't be any other relationship. But when it comes to the relationship marketing, කියලා කියන්නේ so you create a relationship. කොහොමද වෙන්නේ? දැන් අපි හිතන්නකෝ pizza hut එකකින් කියලා pizza එකක් ගන්නවා. එදායින් පස්සේ ඔයාත් එක්ක pizza hut එකේ කතාවක් නැති වෙනවද? No, it won't happen ළමයි. So they get your details. They always get your phone number, addresses, everything, right? So that they have on their database that they have where whatever the points that you have purchases pizza, whether it's from your home or whether it's at your workplace, so that they have whatever the outlet that you have purchased. What are the things that you have purchased? So what are your preferences, your phone numbers, everything is there. So they know that you are very conscious on promotions, right? So that is there. So what will happen? So once you have purchased the purchased a pizza from a Pizza Hut, then they start to sell promotional advertisement promotions to you guys. Have you ever noticed this, right? Pizza Hut thinking, I mean, 20% discount because this is known as relationship marketing, right? because that they always gives you, I mean, that they always remind you to buy things from their outlet, right? So that is known as the relationship. This is not only between the merchant and the customer. මේක හැමතිස්සෙම customer මේ organization එකයි merchant අතර විතරක් නෙවෙයි. සමහර වෙලාවට මේක it's a kind of a 360 degree relationship. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් organization එකක් ගත්තාම ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවනේ organization එකක් deal කරන්නේ කාත් එක්කද කියලා. So what are the stakeholders that the organization deals with? So we have talked about the organizational environment, if you can remember, right? So in that case, we said that the organizations, when it comes to your company, that they have the suppliers. අපි අපේ product එක හදන්නේ කාගෙන් හරි materials අරගෙන. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ අපේ suppliers ලා. එතකොට අපි ඒගොල්ලොත් එක්ක relationship එකක් තියාගන්න එක වැදගත් වෙනවා. Because if we have a good relationship, only that they will provide us good quality raw materials and also that they have to supply continuously. Right? ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ production එක ළම අපි මොකක් හරි දෙයක් product එකක් හදනකොට when you produce something, so whether you have a quality output and whether you can continuously give this quality output, so that is determined by your suppliers. Because in order to give a quality continuous output, that you have to have a quality continuous inputs, right? අපිට quality and quality inputs continuously හම්බුනොත් තමයි අපිට පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ quality product එකක් quality output එකක් දිගටම හදන්න. බැරි වෙලාවත් inputs හම්බුනේ නැත්නම් මොකද වෙන්නේ? නවත්තන්න වෙනවා අපේ production process එක. So it's really important to have a relationship with the suppliers. So this is what I said. මම ඔයාලට මතකද organizational environment එක ගැන කතා කරද්දී management වලදී අර Ford ගේ example එක කිව්වේ Canary Brothers ලගෙන් alloy එක normal alloy එක වෙනුවට මොනවද මොකද ගත්තා කිව්වේ අර special steel එකක් ගත්තා කියලා කිව්වේ vanadium steel එක. ඒක suppliers ලා හින්දා. දැන් අපි හිතමු COVID වෙලාවේදී අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි garments මේ හැදුවට මෙහෙ හැදුවට ළමයි. ලංකාව ඇතුලේ අපි garments හැදුවට apparel industry එක තිබ්බට most of the time our raw materials, yarns and the fabrics, textiles, everything that has to be purchased from outside countries. Right? අපි vendors ලා ගෙන්නේ ගන්නේ China වලින් හරි India වලින් තමයි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට raw materials ටික ගෙන්න ගන්නේ. එතකොට COVID වෙලාවේදී ගොඩක් ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනකොට restrictions තියෙනකොට when there were lots of bans and restrictions for the importations as well as for the exportation, then what has happened? So then the suppliers that they started to supply the goods and quality product continuously, quality products continuously to the companies that they have good relationship. එතකොට තමයි relationship එක වටින්නේ. හරිද? මොකක් හරි වෙලාවකදී අපිට තෝරන්න උනේ. හරිද? දැන් අපි මොකක් දැන් හිතන්නකෝ ඔයාලා ගාව ඇති වෙන්න බඩුවක් නැති වුණොත් කවුරු හරි කෙනෙක්ට එක බඩුවක් දෙනවද නැද්ද කියන එක තීරණය වෙන්නේ එයාත් එක්ක තියෙන relationship එක මතනේ. දැන් හිත පෑනක් වුණත් හිතන්නකෝ. දැන් ඔයා ගාව පෑනක් තියෙනවා. පෑනක් නැති ළමයි දෙන්නෙක් ඉන්නවා. හරිද? එතකොට ඔය දෙන්නගෙන් මේ පෑන දෙන්නේ මම කාටද කියලා තීරණය වෙන්නේ ඔයාගේ රිලේෂන්ෂිප් එක මත. ඒ වෙලාවේ රික්වයර්මන්ට් එකේදී මම හිතනවා මෙයා මගේ හොඳ මෙයාළුවනේ මට දෙන්නවා කියලා. That's why we say when it comes to the organizations also, when you're having different types of supply, when it comes to the suppliers, ඔයාගේ supplier කියන්නේ එයා තමයි ඔයාගේ competitor raw materials දෙන්නේ. When it comes to your suppliers, they are the same people who supply raw materials for your competitors too. So whether they're going to supply quality products, quality inputs continuously, so that is depend on the relationship that you build, maintain with your suppliers. So that is something very important. And also on the other hand, the distributors. So the distributors, in a sense, the people who will deliver your products to the customers. හරිද? අපි පාවිච්චි කරන retail channel එක මොකක්ද? distributors නම් මොකක්ද? අපි සමහරට wholesale කෙනෙක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි සමහර වෙලාවට retailer කෙනෙක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලන් එක්කත් අපිට හොඳ relationship එකක් තියෙනවා. We got the toothpaste. හරිද? So the Colgate, Colgate, Superiority, Sudanta, all of them that they use the same distributional channels. So what are the distributional channels that they might use? Cargill, Steels, Aprico, whatever the retail channels available in the market, right? So that is there. So whether they gives you a good shelf or a kind of a good space, so that is depend on the relationship that you're going to have maintained with your distributors. Right? So that is known as the relationship. So this is the difference between the relationship, the marketing and the selling. So when it comes to the selling, it's more like a transaction. And once it extended towards the relationship marketing, then we call it as marketing. Right? So this is this is how the consumers obtains products and services. As I said before, it's a kind of an hierarchy where you starting from the exchange and then go to the transaction and then to the relationship. So this is our fourth question. And the next thing is who purchase the products and services? Who buy your products? So you have your market, right? So what is who buy your products? So that is your market. So that means the buyers who shares a particular needs and wants so that they can be satisfied by a particular company, product or services. So that is your market, right? අපේ market එක කියලා කියන්නේ අපි අපේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක හරි සර්විස් එක හරි ගන්න කට්ටිය හරි ගන්න බලාගෙන ඉන්න කට්ටිය හරි. හරි. දැන් අපි හිතමු අපේ මේ ඩිප්ලෝමා එක. දැන් ඔයාලා කවුද අපේ actual buyers because you are the people who have purchased our diploma. ඒකනේ කතාව. That you are selling a diploma and you bought that diploma. ඒක නෙවෙන්නේ මෙතන ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕනේ. ඉගෙන ගත්තට පස්සේ තමයි certificate එක එන්නේ. That is something different. But if you just think about the business perspectives of the education, right? So this is what we do. මෙතන වෙන්නේ ඒකනේ ළමයි. අධ්‍යාපනයේ වගේම මෙතන business එකකුත් තියෙනවා නේ හරියද? එතකොට that is there. So you buy the things. Actual buyers. ඔයගොල්ලෝ තමයි actual buyers. Howද එතකොට potential buyers ලා කියන්නේ? So the people who are getting ready with the next intake. තාම ඇවිල්ලා නැතුව interview කරලා ගන්න ඉන්න potential buyers ලා කියන්නේ මේ පාර A-levels කරලා results ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්න කට්ටිය. So these are the potential buyers, right? So when it comes to the market, so it is it's constitute of actual buyers as well as the potential buyers. Right, so the market includes both the actual buyers as well as the potential buyers. So I think that you understand the difference between the actual and potential buyers. So when you are in the market, Ramai, when you do your businesses, it's not your focus only towards the actual buyers. You have to think about the potential buyers too. අපි potential buyers ලා ගැනත් හිතන්න ඕනේ. මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි අපේ ඉස්සරහට business එක, right? So whether you're gonna have a win-win situation, so that is determined by your potential buyers, right? So that's about the market. So when it comes to the marketing system, Lama, although I said this is a modern marketing system, it's not a kind of a modern marketing system, it's a marketing system. Modern unat, conventional unat, marketing system, make a So the only difference is when it comes to the modern marketing, so it comes in a kind of a different mode. Right? So if you just think about the conventional marketing, all these components were actually visible. Right? But when it comes to the modern marketing system, most of these components are digitalized, virtual. Right? සමහර වෙලාවට company එකක් කියලා එකක් නැහැ. තියෙන්නේ virtual space එකක් විතරයි. Online තමයි මිනිස්සු transactions කරන්නේ. So that is known as a modern marketing system. But anyway, I would like to use only the marketing system here. මේ තියෙන marketing system එකක තියෙන කොටස් එක මිසක් modern marketing system එකක තියෙන elements නෙවෙයි, right? So the modern, it doesn't matter whether it's modern or conventional. So when it comes to a marketing system, so these are the essential components in a marketing system. So what are the essential components? First, you have the suppliers. Who are the suppliers? Suppliers are the people who supply raw materials for your organization. Right? So when it comes to the suppliers, they supply supplies or the raw materials for you guys as well as your competitors. ඔයාට company එකටත් දෙනවා, ඒ වගේම ඔයාගේ competitors එකටත් දෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? Competitors ලා ඔයාලයි අපේ company එකයි දෙකම we produce the products and services. So once you produce the products and services, so that goes to the market intermediaries. It's not only our product but also our competitors' products. With දෙගොල්ලම හදුවට පස්සේ product එක කාටද දෙන්න? Market intermediaries ලාට. How the market intermediaries ලා කියන්නේ? So the people who will help you to take your products to the customers. I mean, as I said you before, it's really nice if you can take your product directly to the customer. අත්‍තරම ඔයාට ඔයාගේ product එක කෙලින්ම ගිහින් customer ට දෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒක ගොඩක් හොඳයි. But still it's difficult because sometimes you don't have that capacity, you don't have that money as well as you're not specialized in it. But when it comes to the kilns or when it comes to the cargies, that they are specialized in it. Right? People know that particular retail brand. Right? If you just think about the Tesco, if you just think about Asda, Walmart, so that they have specific specialized what do you call it? Specialized I mean, they are very specialized in these functions, right? So sometimes some other companies, you know, කෙලින්ම end user ට යනවා. දැන් හිතන්නකෝ අපි ගත්තොත් සමහර products අපිට පුළුවන් කෙලින්ම ගන්න. අපි ගත්තොත් ඇඳුම් අපි සමහර වෙලාවට කියන්නේ G block හරි මේ අපි ගන්න ඒවයි අපි කෙලින්ම purchase කරනවානේ. online හරි සමහර වෙලාවට අපි කීල්ස් එකෙන් පවා අපි කෙලින්ම ඕඩර් කරලා ඒවා තියෙන්නේ මෙතන මේ ඩෝර් ස්ටෙප් ඊළඟට අපි කීල්ස් වලින් විතර නෙවෙයි මම කෙලින්ම අපි ප්‍රොඩියුසර්ගෙන් කෙලින්ම ගන්න ඒවා තියෙන්නේ so that is there අපි ඒකට කියනවා direct marketing කියලා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි online ගිහිලා කරන්නේ so that is a kind of a direct marketing right so you can directly buy your product so the end user will කෙලින්ම එයාගෙන් purchase කරනවා එහෙම නැත්නම් that there might be other uh, there might be other market intermediaries who comes in between suppliers and end users. So these are the components. Components suppliers competitors company marketing intermediaries and also end users are there. Right? So this is what happens. So when it comes to the modern marketing system, so as I said you before, some of the components are virtual. ඉතින් ඉස්සර තමයි අපි දැක්කේ company එක ගත්තාම අපේ competitors ලා ගත්තාම අපිට shop එකක් තියෙනවා, shop area එකක් තියෙනවා එහෙම. But there might be modern marketing ventures which are virtual. අපි සමහරවිට space එකක් නැහැ, හරි පොඩි තැනක අපි තියාගෙන ඉන්නේ. ඒ මොකද කරන්නේ? ආව ගමන් online අපිට අග්ගලා යවනවා, online delivers කරන්නේ. Right? Upon we deliver the products upon request. So that is yeah. ඊළඟට අපි සමහර වෙලාවට cash use කරන්නම නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද අපි card වලින් ගහන්නේ online මේක කරන්නේ. That is there. Okay. So these are the components in the marketing system. Okay. And now we are going to talk about the marketing management. So when it comes to the marketing, just give me 5 minutes. I'm going to break it up. That there are 3 layers that you can manage the marketing. So first you can manage the marketing and then you can manage the demand, then you can manage the customers through the profitable customer relationship. So the broader scope is where you start the marketing management. So that means you are implementing the marketing programs. When it comes to the marketing, marketing වලදී අපි 4 P's ගැන කතා කරනවා කියලා product price place and promotion. ඕක තමයි අපි වෙනස් කරන්නේ. අපි ඒක ගැන basically කතා කරනවා. කියන්නේ ඒවට different chapters ම තියෙනවා. මේකේ වෙන වෙනම chapters උත් තියෙනවා product price place promotion කියලා. ඊට අමතරව it can be extended. අපි කියවනේ when it comes to the goods that they might be the products and services කියලා product එකක් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්, service එකක් වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට product ගැන කතා කරනකොට අපි කතා කරන්නේ product price place promotion. But when it comes to the services that can be extended further into 3 piece අපි තවත් දුරටත් ඒක තවත් වෙනස් කර ගන්නවා ඒකට අපි කතා කරනවා people physical environment as well as the process so we talk about all these stuff right so that's about the 4 P's and the 3 P's 4 P's and 7 P's so this is where you manage the market right marketing management so you implement the programs you create the exchanges with the target buyers to achieve the organizational goals. So that is the broader scope, broader scope of managing the marketing. Then you have to understand the customers that who like to buy your product as well as who have the capacity to buy your products. And then you have to create the demand as well as the you have to manipulate. I mean, you have to change or the demand. So sometimes you have to reduce, or sometimes you have to increase. That is based on your capacity to provide the products and services. So that is known as the demand management. And the third one is the profitable customer relationship. You have to create customer relationship by attracting new customers and retaining your current customers. තමයි CRM ගැන කතා කරනකොට customer relationship management ගැන කතා කරනකොට දැන් මම කියවනේ relationship එකක් ගැන. ඇයි මේ customer එක්ක අපි relationship එකක් තියාගන්න ඕනේ කියලා කියන්නේ. Why is it important? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔයා හිතන්න ඔයා ගත්තහම සමහර වෙලාවට prepaid පාවිච්චි කරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්, postpaid පාවිච්චි කරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන් වගේ phone එකේ. Anyway, whatever your package, just think that you pay 1,000 or you pay 2,000, 3,000 rupees for Mobitel or dialogue. අපි හිතන්නකෝ Mobitel customer එකේ. or 3,000 rupees per month pay කරන Mobitel එකට. හරිද? So once you switch off, හිතන්න if you're going to switch off from Mobitel to the dialogue, what will happen to the Mobitel? අපි හිතන්නේ හරි මම නැති වුණා කියලා Mobitel එක නැති වෙන්නේ නෑනේ. එහෙමනේ අපි හිතන්නේ. Just think like this. දැන් ඔයා customer කෙනෙක් විදිහට රුපියල් 3,000ක් අවුරුද්දට දෙනවා කියලා මාසෙට දෙනවා කියන්නේ අවුරුද්දට 3,000 into 12. 12 into ඔයා මුළු ජීවිත කාලෙම Mobitel එකේ හිටියා නම්, so that is your lifetime. So that is the amount that now the Mobitel gonna lose. Right? So this is something really important, right? So when you are talking about the customers, the customer relationship important because when you try to attract a new customer, it's really costly. It saves the money. So if you can retain a particular customer, so that is 5 times beneficial than attracting a new customer. ඒ කියන්නේ අලුත් කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක්ව ඇට්‍රැක්ට් කරගන්න. දැන් හිතන්නකෝ ඔයා Mobitel. ඔයා ඩයලොග් එක ඩයලොග් කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක්ව කන්ටැක්ට් කරගන්න, ඇට්‍රැක්ට් කරගන්න යනවා කියන්නේ ලොකු ගේම් එකක්. මොකද එයා ඔල්තේ සිම් එකක් ගන්න ඕනේ. එයා යාගේ නම්බර් එක මාරු කරනවා. එයා විශ්වුන් නම්බර් එක දෙන්න ඕනේ. So there is a kind of it's difficult. එයා ඒක පාවිච්චි කරන්න ගන්න එක ලේසි වෙන්නේ නැහැ because his switching cost is really high. Mobitel වලින් dialogue වලින් Mobitel වලට මාරු වෙන්න එයාගේ තියෙන switching cost එක වැඩි. එහෙනම් එයා කැමති වෙන්නේ නැහැ එකපාර දෙන්න. So you have to convince him. So it's difficult. Just think of the Mobitel customers. So retaining Mobitel customer is far easier. ඒක ටිකක් ලේසි. ඔයා යාට කොහොම හරි benefits ටිකක් දීලා discount එකක් දීලා යාව තියාගන්න එක ලේසි. හරිද? ඊළඟට retain customer කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා කියන්නේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? හැමදාම දිගින් දිගටම if you have a customer always interact and do the transaction with you, what will happen? So they become loyal to you. හැමදාම ඔයාගෙන්ම තමයි ගන්නේ. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඔයාගෙන එයාගේ මොකක් හරි අර ඔයාගේ එක්ක රිලේෂන්ෂිප් එකක් එනකොට එයා ඔයාගෙන හොඳ කියන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. ඔයාව රෙකමන්ඩ් කරන්න පටන් ගන්නවා අනිත් කස්ටමර්ස්ලට. So this is known as the word of mouth. Right? So nothing is better than word of mouth, lamai. So nothing is better than word of mouth. So when you recommend somebody, right? So people believe in experiences. දැන් කවුරු හරි පාවිච්චි කරලා කිව්වොත් ඔයාට මේ ෆෝන් එක නම් ගන්න එපා මේක මාර සවුත්තුයි කියලා ජීවිතේට ගන්නවද ඒක. So the experience is something really important. Word of mouth and experience. So that's why people look at about the reviews. එතන ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට purchase කරනකොට reviews, customer reviews, ranking ඔක්කොම බලන්නේ. හරිද? එයි it is because of this thing, word of mouth. Right? So that's why I say it's important to retain the existing customer rather than attracting new customers. So that's why we talk about the customer relationship. ඒක තමයි relationship marketing වල තියෙන importance එක. හරිද? ඔයාත් එක්ක customers ලත් එක්ක දිගින් දිගටම relationship එකක් තියාගත්තොත් එයාලට අවශ්‍ය වෙලාවට promotions යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ lifetime value එකම ඔයත් එක්ක තියෙනවා. So that is something really important, right? That's there. And now we are going to talk about the marketing management philosophies. ඒ කියන්නේ ළමයි so මේ it's a kind of a හමන්ගේ මේක ඇවිල්ලා හරියටම hierarchy එකක් කියන්න බෑ අතරම. මේක ඇවිල්ලා ඒ කාලේ ඉඳන් කොහොමද? So how it has been evolved. How it has been expanded from history to today. Marketing කියන concept එක කොහොමද ඒ කාලේ ඉඳන් අද වෙනකල් expand වෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒ වුණාට මේ expand වෙච්ච විදිහ ගත්තාම මේ මුලින්ම ආවේ production concept එක කියලා තමයි අපි කියන්නේ. So the earliest concept was the production concept. But still lamai there are some of the organization who use this particular concept. හරිද? ඒ කාලේ පාවිච්චි කරා කියලා අද නෑ කියන්න බෑ. සමහර organization, සමහර companies තියෙනවා අදටත් that they use this production concept. So when it comes to the marketing management philosophies, I would like to say something like this, right? So rather than a hierarchy, it's concept. So when it comes to the today's organization, most today's organizations that they use sometimes some of the concepts solely or combined. අතගොල්ලෝ වෙලාවට ඒගොල්ලෝ කම්බිනේෂන් විදිහට යූස් කරනවා ප්‍රොඩක්ෂන් concept එකයි product concept එකයි එකට හරි production concept එකයි marketing concept එකයි එකට ඒ වගේ it's a kind of combination. So anyway, now let's talk about what are these concepts. අපි දැන් කතා කරමු මොනවද මේ concepts වෙන්නේ කියලා. So the first concept is the production concept. ප්‍රොඩක්ෂන් concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ මේ ඇවිල්ලා අර ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රියල් රිවොලියුෂන් එක එන්න කලින් වෙච්ච දේවල් ඒ වෙද්දි production concept එක. So that at that time production was very low. So we had no we had no modern industrial equipments or the technology. So what was happened at that time, the production was very low. So the first there should be a product. අපි ඇත්තට මේ කාලේ හිතුවේ මොකක් හරි ඔයා හැදුවොත් කවුරු හරි ඒක ගන්න ඉන්නවා කියන එක තමයි ඒ කාලේ කිව්වේ. First the product should be made and in the end you will find somebody to buy the product. So that means every product has a market and audience. So that was the earliest concept. අපි ගත්තොත් ඒ කාලේ Ford ලට එහෙමනේ උනේ. දැන් Ford මොන හරි කාර් එකක් හදලා දැම්ම නම් මොකක් හරි කාර් එකක් එළියට දැම්ම නම් when we talk about the Ford, I said that they have produced delivery wagons. So initially they failed because that there was a kind of a huge demand for their delivery wagon, but still that they couldn't meet that demand. They could only produce 12 or 20 12 or 24 vehicles within a year. So that was very low, right? So that's what it said when it comes to that era, that it said that if you produce something, that there is a market and audience to buy it. So when it comes to the Ford and McDonald's, the color of burger කියන culture එකත් එහෙමනේ. So when it comes to the US people, that they had a kind of a huge burger culture. burger day එකකුත් තිබ්බනේ ඒ කාලේ. එතකොට ඒක එච්චර ගොඩකට බර්ගර්ස් හදන්න හැදුවක් ගන්නවා කට්ටිය ඕන තරම් ඉන්නවා. ඒ වගේ තමයි ඒකෙදි කියන්නේ. හරි දැනටත් එහෙමනේ ළමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මම කියන්නේ fast food ගත්තාම production එකේ තරමට ඉන්නවා ඒ රටවල් වල because the population is really high, right? So the Ford and McDonald's. So even now if you just think about the many operations that if you just think about the McDonald's or Burger King, that they in US that they are operation oriented, that they are production concept oriented businesses, right? So that is there. ඒක තමයි production concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ. ඊළඟට product concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ the production concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ whatever you produce that there will be a person, there will be a market to buy it. ඒක පුළුවන් තරම් හදන්න තමයි බලන්නේ. හරිද? මොකද හදන තරමට විකුණ ගන්න පුළුවන්. So that is there, right? So the next thing is the product concept, right? මම දැන් කතා කරේ අතන production concept එක ගොඩාක් කාලයකට කලින් ආවොත් if you just think about the McDonald's, still that they operate in more than 100 countries. So that is the largest chain by, as I remember, largest chain by revenue, right? So that they still use this kind of a production concept. So the next thing is the product concept, right? The product concept කියලා කියන්නේ customer own features බලනවා, right? Features බලලා පුළුවන් තරම් product එකට features add කරනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ production එකේදී අපි කරන්නේ පුළුවන් තරම් quantity එක වැඩි කරපු එකනේ. product concept එකේදී කරන්නේ product එකේ පුළුවන් තරම් features වැඩි කරන එක. So you just think about the customer features and then whatever the features that is required by the customer, and then you try to add these features to the product. Right? So the core concept is that the principal quality of the particular product, right? The performance, innovative product, right? So you try to produce the quality, user-friendly, performing and innovative products that is always at the top of their game. අපි ගත්තොත් ඒ කියන්නේ flawless features කියලා කියන්නේ අපි ගත්තොත් phone එකක් ගත්තොත් market එකේ තියෙන හොඳම phone එක තියෙන්නේ Apple. කියනවා අපි. එහෙම නෙවෙයි. මම නිකන් කියන්නේ හරිද? මාකට් එකේ තියෙන හොඳම ලැප්ටොප් එක HP කියලා කියනවා. අර මම නිකන් කියන්නේ. හරිද? එහෙම කියන්න පුළුවන් කියලා කියන්නේ දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් ගොඩාක් ටෙක්නොලොජිකල් කම්පනීස් IBM ඊළඟට මේ අපි ගත්තොත් Google, Apple, Microsoft ඒ වගේ කම්පනීස් හැම වෙලාවෙම try කරන්නේ මොකද බිස්නස් එකේ টොප් එකේ ඉන්න. අපි තමයි අලුත්ම softwares දාන්නේ. අපි තමයි අලුත්ම apps දාන්නේ. එහෙම කියන්නේ so that they always try to be the top of their game. And so they always try to add flawless features to their products. So this is known as product concept, right? But there is a small problem in this concept, Lama. Make it a pretty concept, pretty issue. Sometimes when the companies try to be the top of their game, what happen that they just try to add more and more features, but they do not think about what the customer really wants. සමහර වෙලාවට ඔයාලා දකින්න ඇතිනේ software upgrade කරගෙන update වෙවි යනකොට ඒ features සමහර වෙලාවට ඔයාලට ඕනෙ නැහැ. හරිද? සමහර features ඕනෙ නැහැ. සමහර softwares තියෙන දැන් ඔය SAP පනම්මනම් එහෙම යද්දි සමහර softwares තියෙන හරිම අමාරුයි මේ users ලට adapt වෙන්න. හරිද? එතකොට customer ට ඕන දේවල් නෙවෙයි ඔයා adapt කරලා තියෙන්නේ. Right? So that is there. So we call this concept as the market myopia. අපි මේකට කියනවා market myopia කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ we are looking at the business own goals rather than needs and wants of the customer. customer ට ඕන එකට වැඩි අපි අපිට ඕන ඒවා දාගෙන හොඳම මේක තමයි brilliant product එක කියලා කියන්න හදනවා. So this is known as market myopia. So it's a kind of a problem. Right? So when you add features, always remember අපි මොන හරි feature එකක් add කරගෙන යනවා කියන්නේ it has a cost. හරිද? එතකොට මෙච්චර cost එකක් දීලා යනකොට customer ඒකට ගෙවන්න කැමති නැත්තම් සමහරලාට customer කියනවා හරි okay features වැඩි නම් මට ඔය features ඕනේ I don't want that feature so why should I pay that much I'll buy the lowest version for the lowest price. And so then there is a market failure. So that is known as the market myopia. So you have to think about the sustainability and the subjective. Subjective means in a sense that is needed by the customers. And the sustainability in a sense when you add the features more and more, so then you cannot sustain. So you have to understand whatever the features that is required by the customer. So this is known as product concept. Okay. So the next concept is the selling concept. So the selling concept in a sense, Lama, the consumers that they won't beat right. අපි දැන් මේ ඇවිල්ලා කතා කරන්නේ industrial revolution එකට පස්සේ. දැන් එතකොට මොකද උනේ ගොඩාක් හොඳ technologies හොයාගත්තා දැන් production එක වැඩි. So now the production is really high because you have huge production line, assembly line. Now the production is really high, specialization is there. So there is a huge production. Now know that the consumers won't buy enough products and services unless you ask them to buy, persuade them to buy. Right? So when people have lots of options, so you have to persuade them to buy. Right? So that is known as the selling concept. Because තහම market එකේ ගොඩාක් product තියෙනවා දැන්. Production එක වැඩි, හින්දා ගොඩාක් products තියෙනවා. There is a huge variety. So what will happen? So you have to always influence or you have to always persuade your consumers to buy your product. So this is known as selling concept. අපි අපේ අර හැමතිස්සෙම advertisement දාලා අපි කියන්නේ advertising programs යවලා අපි කියන්නේ customers ට බලන්න මේක ගන්න purchase කරන්න කියලා කියන්නේ අන්න ඒක තමයි selling concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? So the next thing is the marketing concept. So what does it mean by the marketing concept? So the marketing concept focus on the needs and wants. අපි කිව්වේ selling concept එකේදී අත්‍තරම හදන්නේ අපි product පුළුවන් තරම් හදලා ඒ ටික පුළුවන් තරම් විකුණ ගන්න බලන්න. Marketing concept එක එහෙම නෙමෙයි. So whatever the things that you produce, so that you produce in order to satisfy the needs and wants of the customer. So your focus it's on needs and wants of the target markets, right? So you are delivering a value to your customers that is better than your competitors. So this is known as marketing, right? So when it comes to the marketing, you always try to create a strong brand. අපි හැමතිස්සෙම අපේ strong brand එකක් හදන්න try කරනවා, right? So you prefer your brand, you try to make your brand prefer over your competitors, right? අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි ගොඩාක් වෙලාවට try කරන brand එකක් විදියට dominant වෙන්න competitors ලගේ purchase කරන්න නැතුව අපේ එක purchase කරන්න කියලා relationship එකක් හදාගන්න. So this is known as marketing concept. So if you just think about the modern organization, අපි අද කාලේ පාවිච්චි කරන marketing concepts බැලුවොත් most of the organizations that they follow this ideology, right? So most followed ideology by the top companies is the marketing concept. So if you just think about the Coca-Cola, Coke delivers on a kind of an holistic approach that they have three basic questions. What is the target market? There are the needs of what are the needs of the target markets? How best you can deliver a particular value to the proposition, value proposition to the target market. So these are the stuff. Marketing concept එක කියලා කියන්නේ. So you always it's always start with the customer needs and wants. You provide you produce whatever the customer needs and customer need. You try to deliver value to the customers. You create the brands, right? ඔයා බ්‍රෑන්ඩ් එකක් හදාගන්න try කරනවා. ඔයා මේ බ්‍රෑන්ඩ් එක ඔයාගේ competitors ලා අතර dominant brand එකක් කරනවා. So that is known as the marketing concept. So now we are going to talk about the societal marketing concept. So the societal marketing concept in a sense ළමයි. So අපි දැන් මම කියවනේ අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලම selling concept එකේදී කතා කරේ මොනවද? පුළුවන් තරම් උඩින්ම බලන්න යනකොට අපි production concept එක ගත්තොත් අපි කතා කරේ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඒත් organization එක පැත්තෙන්. Right? So whatever the things that you පුළුවන් තරම් profit එක වැඩි කරගන්න බැලුවේ production එක වැඩි කරා. ප්‍රොඩක්ට් concept එක ගත්තාම ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක පැත්තෙන් බලුවේ. එතකොට profit එක නෙවෙයි අපි ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකටම cost එක වැය කරලා ප්‍රොඩක්ට් quality ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකකට යනවා. Selling concept එකදී so we were trying to sell as much as possible. So we try to increase the company profit. ඊළඟට market concept එකදී මොකද බලුවේ? Profit එක වැඩි කරගන්නත් බලුවා. We try to increase the profit as well as we try to satisfy the customer needs and wants. So we thought about the customer as well as we thought about the company profit too. So the societal marketing in a sense, apart from the customer, apart from the company, that there is another pillar which is known as the societal benefits, right? So that's why we talk about these CDAP, corporate social responsibility, CSR ගැන. ඒ කියන්නේ company එකට profit යනවා, customer satisfy වෙනවා, as well as you have to think about the human well-being, society's well-being. So when you purchase something, so that gives a kind of merit to the society too. So that is there. So that is known as the societal marketing concept. So focus on the needs and wants of the target market, as well as the delivery superior value, and then you are talking about the society's well-being as well as the company's profit. Right. So these are the marketing concepts. So when it comes to the societal marketing, we talk about all these three pillars. One of the three pillars අපි කතා කරන්නේ. So that is the company, customer, as well as the community. So these are the three C's. Community එකට well-being, ඒ කියන්නේ society එකට, ඊළඟට customer to satisfaction, and then the company එකට profit. So these are the three pillars, right? So you're doing a business. Don't forget it, right? So you have to have the profit too, right? So your customer is the king, right? So you have to satisfy them too. So while satisfying your customers, while making profit, you cannot forget about the community, because as a human being that you have to serve for your society too, right? So that's what it says, right? So when it comes to the marketing and selling concept, so this is how I'm going to differentiate the marketing and selling concept. Because the marketing and selling concept එක වෙනස් කරන්නේ. If we just look at the උඩ තියෙන selling concept එක යට තියෙන marketing concept එක. ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න මේකෙදී මේ තියෙන්නේ selling concept එක, මේ තියෙන්නේ marketing concept එක. So if you just look at the selling concept ළමයි, so it's always start with the factory. Company එකෙන් තමයි පටන් ගන්නේ production එකෙන්. So whatever the things you produce, you're gonna sell it. But when it comes to the marketing concept, it's always start with the market. So you produce whatever the things that is demanded, required by the customers. So you produce something in order to satisfy the customer needs and wants. හරිද? අපි market එකෙන් බලනවා customer ගේ needs and wants. ඒකට තමයි අපි produce කරන්නේ. ඊළඟට අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ advertising විතරක් නෙවෙයි. So we use the integrated marketing, all the channels. We use all these marketing channels in order to create the profit as well as the satisfactions to the customer. But if you just think about the selling concept, you always start with the factory. right? So you think about whatever the products that you have. Factory එකේ හදපු production එක බලන්න. දැන් ඒක කොහොම හරි විකුණ ගන්න ඕනේ. So selling and promoting is there. Then you are trying to profit. You try to gain profit through the sales. You will get the profit as much as you sell. So that is your focus. Selling is the focus. Right? So this is the difference between the selling and marketing concept. So as I said you before, so this is about the societal marketing, that there are three pillars. You have the consumers, you have the company, as well as the society. Sometimes we call this as the three C's. Instead of society, we call it as the community, consumers, and the company. So the consumers, that they have the wants and needs and wants, so you're going to satisfy them. So on the other hand, you have the company where you have the profit, try to obtain the profit. For the society, the human welfare or human well-being. So this is what we take as the societal marketing. So then, when it comes to the marketing, that there are new marketing challenges. Marketing only challenges because when it comes to the market, so as I said you before, so we have particular, let's start from the new marketing landscape and information technology. You know, Lama, that there is a kind of a huge expansion in the IT sector. So, you know, when it comes to the online marketing right after the COVID, it says that the online marketing has been increased, online purchases has been increased by 60%, right? So when it comes to the, global community, more than 50% of the global community, that they have access to the internet through mobile devices, and also more than 2/3 of the global community use phones, and from that percentage, 50% of them use smartphones. So you know that technically, the technical know-how and how well they expose to the information. So you can use this as a kind of an opportunity in your business, right? So when it comes to the businesses, so the information is the key, you know, right? So data සාමාන්‍යයෙන් business එක වැදගත්ම වෙන්නේ data driven business. So that's why we talk about this big data and the analytics in a new marketing era. And the next thing is the non-profit marketing. You know, when it comes to the non-profit marketing, so it doesn't say it doesn't make profit කියන එක නෙමෙයි මේ කියන්නේ. හරි සමහර non-profit marketing තියෙනවා ඒවා ගොඩක් profit කරනවා. හරිද? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔයාලා දැකලා ඇති අපි ගත්තාම donors ලා ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ගත්තොත් මේක දැන් අර ඉස්සර අපිට මොකක් හරි donor කෙනෙක් හොයාගන්න හරිම අමාරුයි, but when it comes to the today's scenario, so just because of the social marketing and the social platform, it's really easy for us to raise the funds sometimes for the non-profit marketing. We got the UN එකේ වැඩවලට අපි ගත්තොත් සමහර non-profit organizations, UN agencies, ඊළඟට අපි ගත්තොත් ගොඩාක් අපි ඔයාලා දැකලා තියෙනනේ දැනුත් අර සාමාන්‍ය fundraising activities and හරි ලේසි මේවා කට්ටිය ඒ කියන්නේ මේ information technology එකත් එක්ක මාර ලොකු expansion එකක් තියෙනවා non-profit marketing වලදී. So the non-profit marketing වලදී මොනවද අපි පාවිච්චි කරන tools? So that is something very important to think about. So when it comes to the business marketing and the non-profit marketing, it has to be a little different, because in non-profit marketing we always try to convey the message to the community that we're not trying to make the profit. So in that case, you have to be very careful when you handle your marketing strategies and the tools. So the next thing is the globalization. So, you know, as I said you before, if you can remember, last time we talked about when we studying management, we talk about this globalization. So we said that sometimes we don't know the global identity just because of the multinational companies, right? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේ multinational companies ඉඳ අපි දන්නේ නැහැ ඇත්තටම මොන companies මොනවයින්ද සමහර companies වල parental company එක මොකක්ද, parental country එක මොකක්ද, we don't know. So that there are many products that is come as the stateless nature, right? So that is there. So when it comes to the Walmart also, I said that even it's a kind of a US-based company, most of its profit, more than 50% of its profit coming from the other regions, right? So that is there. So that's how the globalization. So it's not only on some of the businesses. අපි ගත්තොත් entertainment business එකේදී පවා globalization එක ගොඩාක් වැදගත් වෙලා තියෙනවා. අර බාබී එහෙම බලන්න දැන් So that there was a kind of a huge uh, advantage just because of this globalization and also the changing world economy, right? So just before the COVID, we thought that the world economic giant is US. But today things has been changed. Now we know that just after that, the space, I mean, Chandrayaan එක ගියාට පස්සේ දැන් තේරෙනවානේ ඒතකොට that India has something කියලා. So India has something and when it comes to the India and the China ඇත්තටම China වලටත් දැන් ගහන්න බැරි තරමටම India මම හිතන්නේ world economy they have a kind of a crucial part, right? So when it comes to the Russia, India, China, and the US, the changing world economy. So what happens to the European countries, that the European landscape? So that is something very important to think about when it comes to the new marketing challenges that might arise in future as a new to a new marketeer. And also the ethical concerns sometimes when you're talking about sometimes when your product is something ethically concerned. සමහර වෙලාවට අපි ගත්තොත් ඇල්කොහොල් වගේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් නම් හදන්නේ narcotic වගේ සම්බන්ධ හරි ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් නම් හදන්නේ, so you have to think about the ethical concerns. Sometimes you cannot use child labor. Sometimes you cannot child sensitive they were marketing karadi, so you have to be very careful. Again, sometimes some of the advertisement that you might have seen that you cannot show them in some countries because of these cultural differences. You have to have ethical concerns because of the child sensitivity factors, right? So these are the marketing challenges, and this is some of the more questions, right? So yeah, I'm asking you to differentiate between the marketing and the selling concept by taking a restaurant chain as an example. So if you just think about some of the restaurant, how the marketing selling වෙනස්. So we have talked about this marketing. It's always start with the customer needs and wants. So the selling, it's always start with the production, whatever the products that you have in your factory. Right, so that is there. So you have to think about the difference between the marketing and selling. So you have to talk about the customer relationship, right? So that is there. Then you have to describe the new marketing challenges with examples. So if you just think about the restaurant chains, you can think about Pizza Hut and KFC. Right? KFC ඇත්තටම selling concept තියෙන්නේ. Pizza Hut එකට තියෙන marketing concept එක. Right? So then you can describe the new marketing challenges with examples, right? So here what we have discussed so far. Then you can describe the social marketing by using an existing company. So that means you have to think about a particular company and you have to think about the pillars of the societal marketing. That means the profit for the company, satisfaction for the customer through the satisfied needs and wants, and welfare to the community. So if you just think about this thing, like, do you know this Mars Holdings, Brandix, right? So that there are two mega apparel companies in Sri Lanka, right? So we have one of these factories. I mean, one of the giant apparel factory that is owned by the Mars Holdings at our university area. Right, so that is known as Slimline. So when Slimline was starting their business, again, I'm talking about a long time ago, right? So when they were, අවුරුදු 30 40කට විතර කලින් ඒගොල්ලෝ business එක start කරනකොට when they were trying to start their business at Slimline in Pannala, that there was a kind of a huge resistance that came from the community, nearby community, because you know that their main production is undergarments, right? So that they thought undergarments are make culture, right? So that's how they thought. But with the time that they tried to convey the message to the community that this is for them, that it might create a lot of employ opportunities for the people within the community, as well as they started to donate a lot of money for the school functions, as well as schools that is functioning in that particular area, as well as some of the properties, public properties like the bus hall, the library, as well as many stuff, right? So this is how that they try to implement the societal marketing concept, right? So with that, we have come to the end of our first chapter. So as I said to you before, I'll be doing only 3 chapters today, right? Because as I said to you before, we are going to have only a mini lecture today with 3 hours. So I have completed my first half and 1.5. So let's have a small break for 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, break your kara. इधर बैग हमारा करो. So we will do the rest. So if you need to stay in, you can stay. Please switch off your mic and stay. If not, that you can switch off and you can log out and come right after 15 minutes. Right? So, but anyway, I'm going to stay connected because it's difficult for me to go and come back, right? Strategic planning process. So we have something called global environment, but I'm not going to do it. As I can remember that we have completed it in fundamentals of management. So you know the global environment. Let's see whether we can have a recap in next 2 weeks. I mean, the other two sessions, right? So here we are going to talk about the strategic planning and the marketing process. So how the marketing happens, so how the marketing process happens. So when it comes to the strategic planning process, Ramai, so it involves that the way you're going to develop. It's So in strategic planning process, we are going to talk about the way that you're going to develop a strategic marketing campaign, right? So as I said to you before, when it comes to the marketing, that there are 4 P's: product, price, place, and promotion. There will be different chapters for product, price, place, and promotion. So there will be 4 chapters. But we are not going to talk about the extended piece because at this level, diploma level, I think that we don't need to complete those 3 P's. So when it comes to the marketing program, that you have to think about the way you're going to manage these 4 P's. So just before you think about the marketing program implementation, so that there is a process that you have to go through.
Madam, we can't hear clearly.
Can't hear. So in here now, mm, uh, can you hear me now? Can't you hear?
ඇහෙනම ඒත් සොර සොර ගාන සද්දයක් තියෙනවා.
Is it for all of the others or I mean, is it same to the other people too?
No, miss.
No, that's why I wanted to check. I mean, it is for a particular person or all of you. I think it's just for a particular person, right? So I think then the connectivity issue must be with you, that particular person. I think that has to be handled by your end, right? If it's from my end, if all of you can feel something, if all of you can feel that there is an issue, please raise. If not, that might be a kind of an issue from your end. So here, when it comes to the strategic planning process, we are going to talk about the way that we're going to implement that particular program. So the first thing is there are 4 steps to be followed. So the first thing is that you have to define the mission, then you have to set your objectives, and then you have to design whatever your business portfolio. Then you have to plan for your functional strategy. So let's see what are these steps and what is known by the mission. What are the objectives? What is business portfolio? What are the functional strategies? So let's go to our next thing. Namai, when it comes to the organization, if you can remember, I said that there is a kind of a hierarchy of the objectives of your organization. On top, you have vision, and then you have mission, and then you have your objectives. So the vision, in a sense, Lamai, so whatever the dream of your organization. So as I said you in management, right? So when it comes to the vision, so the most wonderful definition for the vision has been given by, according to my perception, that has been given by Walt Disney. So he said, once you close your eyes, you have a kind of a dream. So that is known as vision. So when it comes to a dream, Lama, so it's not much elaborative. It's a kind of a qualitative thing. So it's not always something realistic, right? So the vision is something that you dream of, right? So when it comes to the dreams, that might come true or not, right? So it doesn't matter. So that is known as vision. So vision is a kind of a kind of a nice dream that you are always imagining. Right? But the mission is not something like that. Mission is something realistic, but the difference is that in order to achieve the mission, it will take a little bit of a time. It's a long time, right? So the mission is in a sense, so that is the reason for the existence of your organization. Your organization is there in order to achieve that particular objective. Sometimes it might take 2, 3 years. Sometimes it might take 5, 10 years to achieve your mission. So once you achieve the mission, then you have to change your mission. So it's like the long-term objective of your organization. ඔගේ organization එකේ තියෙන long term objective එක තමයි mission එක කියලා කියන්නේ. සමහර වෙලාවට ඒක achieve කරන්න අවුරුදු 5ක් 10ක් යනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි achieve කළාට පස්සේ ඔයාගේ mission එක වෙනස් කරන්න ඕනේ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් when it comes to an organization, when it comes to your mission, so it describes everything about your organization. That is the reason for the existence of your organization. Whatever the business you are engaged in, whatever your products and services, who are your customers, why the customers buy your product but not your competitors. So what is the value for them? So everything is in there in your mission statement. So that's why we say it's a kind of a roadmap, right? So it's a kind of a roadmap. So that always start with the mission, right? So that has to be there. So if you just, I'll give you a kind of a small task to do at home. So you just go home, and once you go home, then you have to find out, right after the lesson, you have to find out some of the companies in their mission. So just look at Unilever, Coca-Cola, or most Fortune businesses and find out whatever their mission. So then you can identify whatever the things that they describe through this mission. So just go to the Bombay University site and identify their vision and mission. So identify what's the difference between the vision and mission. So then you will be able to identify that vision is something not possible to achieve. But when it comes to the mission, it's possible, but it will take long time to achieve that particular task. So you have to compare these stuff. So this is what I wanted to, this is I want you to do at home, right? So when it comes to the vision, as I said you before, it is always something realistic, but it will take time, and also it's very specific, and also it talk about whatever the things that you deliver to your market and whatever your competitiveness, right? And also it's not only for the customers, right? It's also employees. It's motivate your employees to reach the mission. අපි මේ mission එකේ කියන දේ දැක්කම අපේ employees ගන්නවා right. අපි මේක තමයි කරන්න හදන්නේ. ඉතින් අපි මේ දේවල් තමයි කරන්න ඕනේ. So they motivated. So mission is a kind of as I said you before, it's the starting point of your roadmap to the success. Right? So right after mission, Lamai, so as I said you before, it's a kind of a hierarchy where you starting with the vision. So right after the vision, you have the mission. Then right after the mission, you have the objectives. So the objective in a sense, whatever the organization objective. So it's not something long term like mission, right? So when it comes to the objectives, so that is for the short term. So you try to achieve them in short term, and then in long term, you try to achieve your mission. Then mission එක submissions වගේ තමයි. Mission එක sub category කඩලා තමයි අපේ objectives අපි හදාගන්නේ. ඒ objectives achieve කරාම අපි දන්නවා දැන් අවුරුද්දක් ඇතුළත අපි මේවා achieve කරගෙන ගියොත් තමයි on a certain day, right after 10 years, we will be able to achieve our mission. So that is there. So that is the hierarchy where you starting with the mission, and objective. Then we are going to talk about something called business portfolio. So what does it mean by the business portfolio? You know, Raman, when it comes to a business, right? After business එකක් කරනකොට, there is a risk, right? So you have to always have when you're doing a business, you have to invest in your business, right? So that's obvious. So you have to bear a risk. So when you are having an investment, so that means there is definitely a risk. Investment එකක් කරන හැම වෙලාවෙම either you might get a profit or loss. So if you get a loss, so that's risk, right? So ඒක fail වෙන probability එක තමයි අපේ risk එක, right? But on the other hand, if you got success, what will happen? You will be able to get huge profit. ඒකනේ මිනිස්සු risk එකක් ගන්න. මිනිස්සු risk එකක් ගන්න. ලොකු profit එකක් හම්බෙන හින්දා. දැන් මේ වගේ business එකකට invest කරනකොට risk එකක් එනකොට අපිට සමහරලාට මේ risk එක 100% නැති කරන්න බෑ. You won't be able to eliminate the risk completely. You won't be able. So what you can do, sometimes you will be able to minimize the risk. So what are the strategies that you can use to minimize the risk? So one such strategy is your business portfolio. So some organizations, some businesses, Lamai, rather than stick to a one particular business, that they try to invest in different type of businesses. So when you invest in different type of businesses, right? So what will happen? No matter whether you're going to lose in a particular one business, but still you can compensate by the other businesses. So if we just look at the past, if you just think about the COVID time, right? COVID time එකේදී කතා කරලා අපි හිතමු අපි දැක්ක හොටෙල් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රිය කඩාගෙන වැටෙනවා. ෆාමසිටිකල් බිස්නස් එක ලොකු ඉස්සරහකට යනවා. So if you just think about a particular business who was solely depend on the tourism at that time, what was happened to them? So that they were entirely collapsed. And on the other hand, when you were in the pharmaceutical, that they had huge expansion. Just think business who had the tourism as well as the pharmaceutical, like cheese. But ඒගොල්ලන්ට වගේ දෙකම තිබුණා නම් මොකද වෙන්නේ? ජෝන් කීස්ට වගේ දෙකම තිබුණේ නම් ජෙට් වින්ලත් ඉන්නවා ඊළඟට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ අර ග්ලැක්සෝ ස්මිත්ලා වගේ මේ ෆාමසිටිකල් කම්පනීස් උත් ඉන්නවා. හරිද? එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? එතකොට එකකින් අඩු වෙනකොට අනිත් එකේ compensation එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. අරකින් අඩු වෙනවා මේක වෙනවා. Tourism වලින් නැති වෙනවා, but pharmaceutical වලින් වැඩි වෙනවා. So that's why we say, so when you invest in different businesses, so you can mitigate, you can minimize your risk. It's like this. So it's always say when you keep your eggs, so it's always recommended to keep the eggs in different places rather than keeping all of them in one basket, because once you put them in one basket, probably by any chance, if you drop the basket, what will happen? You are going to lose all your eggs. So rather than having all of your eggs in one basket, it is always recommended to keep them in different places, right? So then once you, although you drop the basket, you can have the eggs in the other places. Right? So that is there. So that's how you can minimize the risk. So investment is also something like that. So rather than investing in one single business, you can invest in different businesses. මේ වගේ business දාගෙන යනකොට මේ different business units වලට අපි කියනවා strategic business unit එකක් කියලා. හරිද? ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ගත්තොත් Unilever ගත්තොත් එයාලගේ තියෙනවා personal care, food and beverage. හරිද? ඒ වගේ Unilever Pureit. ඒ වගේ එක business units තියෙනවනේ. අන්න ඒවට කියනවා අපි strategic business unit කියලා. So when one strategic business unit fail, the other might perform well. හරිද? අපි කොහොකද invest කරන්නේ කියලා අපි තමයි තීරණය කරන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ මේ අපි මොන strategic business unitද තියාගන්නේ කියලා හිතන එක, analyze කරලා තියාගන්න එක, අපි ඒකට කියනවා designing your business portfolio කියලා. So the business portfolio, in a sense, the best portfolio is the one that best fit to the organization's strength and weaknesses as well as the opportunities in the environment. So in that case, what you have to do, you have to analyze your current business unit. So you have to understand whatever the business unit that performs well. So if you find a business unit that performs well, then you have to invest in it. So you have to decide which SBUs that needs more investment, and you have to decide which strategic business units that needs less investments or no investments sometimes. Right? So that has to be done. And so this is known as the designing the business portfolio. So the designing business portfolio, in a sense, that you have to think about whatever the strategic business unit that you're going to maintain, that you're going to invest in, and also you're going to invest, but you're going to invest in less amount. And also sometimes there might be some of the strategic business unit that you do not invest on those units. Right? So that is there. So this is known as designing business portfolio. Right? So when it comes to the strategic planning process, so first you have to have plan, then you have to have an implementation and controlling. So if you can remember, or the management can we said that there are 4 main functions. So what are the 4 main managerial functions? Planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. So this is also something like this. When it comes to the management, so it is applicable for any of the managerial subjects, like it doesn't matter whether it's marketing, HR, finance, operation management. ඔය කියන හැම එකටම management අදාළයි. Management කියලා department එකක් නෑනේ ඔයාගේ organization එකේ. ඔයාලා සාමාන්‍ය company එකට ගියොත් ඔයාලා දකින්නේ marketing management, operation management, production management කියලා මිසක් management කියලා department එකක් අපින් දකින්නේ Yeah. So why we have studied management, because those are the principles of the management that is applicable for any other managerial subjects like marketing, human resource, finance, or whatever the subject that you're going to study in future. Right. So when it comes to the managerial functions, so I said to you that there are four managerial functions. So that is common for all these functions: marketing, finance, HR, Hamilton. So if you just think about the marketing management, so first you have to plan, then you have to organize, then you have to lead, then you have to control. So in here, what happens, Lamai? In here, what happens? So here you have planning. So in organizing, that they have taken organizing and leading into the implementation, and then you have the control. So the first thing is that you have to have the marketing plan, and then you have to implement it, then you have to control. So this is how you're gonna implement that. So when it comes to planning, so as I said you before in the managerial management fundamentals of management, so that there are four levels. So you can make the plans in corporate level, you can make the plans in divisional levels, you can make the plans in business level, you can make the plans in product level. So if you just think about the Unilever, so as the corporate level, Unilever can make the decisions, plans. As the divisional level, these people can make the plans. They can have divisions with the Gata food and beverages, අනම්මනංගන යනවා කියන ඊළඟට අපි බිස්නස් එකක් විදිහට කතා කරන්න පුළුවන් ඊළඟට ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක විදිහට කතා කරොත් අපි නිකන් ස්පෙસિෆිකලි කතා කරනවා අපි ගත්තොත් එයාලගේ අපි කතා කරොත් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මොනවද සර්ෆ් එක්සෙල් කියලා ඒ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක ගැන විතරයි sunlight කියලා ඒ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක ගැන විතරක් කතා කරනවා. So planning can be happens in four levels. So the implementation in a sense organizing and leading. So that means how you're gonna organize the structure, who reports to whom, and how you're gonna allocate the resources, who has the authority, who is responsible, and leading in a sense how you're gonna motivate employees, how you're gonna compensate them, how you're gonna give them benefits. So these stuff are there. Then you have the control. controlling in a sense අපි මං කිව්වේ කොහොමද control කරන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපිට standard එකක් අපි plan කරනකොටම අපි කියනවා මේක තමයි අපි achieve කරන්න යන්නේ කියලා. හරිද? ඊළඟට මැදදී අපි actual performance බලනවා. අපි බලනවා අපේ plan කරපු එකයි මේකයි වෙනසක් තියෙනවා. So then you have to take the corrective actions. So this is known as the controlling. Okay? So what happens in the controlling? You have to measure the results and you have to compare the results and you have to diagnose the problem, whatever the problem, you have to recognize it, identify it, and then you have to take the corrective actions. So this is what happens when it comes to the strategic planning, implementation, and control process. So that is relevant to any kind of management function, but only for the marketing. Now I'm going to talk about the way I'm going to analyze the strategic business unit. Over the strategic business unit analyze කරන්නේ business portfolio එක අපේ design කරගන්නේ. So this is how we're going to do that. හරිද? ඒ කියන්නේ අපි කොහේ කොහෙද invest කරන්න කියලා අපි දැනගන්නයි හදන්නේ. So in order to do that, we are going to analyze it by using two determinants. The first one is the relative market share. So the next one is the relative market growth rate. පළවෙනි market growth rate එකයි market share එකයි තමයි අපි ගන්න criteria දෙක. Relative market share කියලා කියන්නේ so your market share that is compared to the market leader of your industry. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ගත්තොත් bank industry එක නම් අපි හිතමු අපි සම්පත් bank එක නම් අපි ගන්නවා private bank sector එකේ අපේ market leader කවුද? So sometimes it might be probably it might be commercial bank. So what is our market share that is compared to the commercial bank? අපි එහෙමයි ගන්න. දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් milk powder market එක අපි හිතමු මලිබන් තමයි market leader. market leader ට සාපේක්ෂව අපේ market එක කොච්චරක්ද කියලා අපි බලමු. පැලවත්. Right? So that is the relative market share. So the market growth rate in a sense, Lama, if you just think about the milk powder market, you just take the market share of the last year and the market share of market share total market volume එක. අපි හිතමු ගිය අවුරුද්දේ 1 million customers ලා හිටියා සම්පූර්ණයෙන් milk powder ගන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ මැලිබන් හරි රත්ති හරි මොනවා හරි ඔක්කොම milk powder consumption එක. So you can use the statistical data that is developed by the statistic department. So that it describes whatever the total consumption, milk powder consumption, total milk powder demand for a particular year. So you get that value. Right, so you get the value for the total milk consumption that has been happening last year and this year. So then you check whether there is an increment or a decrease. Right, so you just think about it. හරිද අපි බලනවා වැඩි වෙලාද තියෙන්නේ අඩු වෙලාද තියෙන්නේ. වැඩි වෙලා නම් market growth rate එකක් නැත්නම් අඩු වෙලාද තියෙන්නේ. So So you think about the market growth rate. So you know now what is relative market share and market growth rate. So you have these determinants, and you, based on these criteria, you divide your strategic business unit into 4 categories. ඔයාගේ SB use මෙන්න මේ 4ට දාගන්නවා. So that is based on your relative market share and market growth rate. Stars කියලා කියන්නේ ළමයි, so where your relative market share is high as well as the market growth rate is high. හිතන්නකෝ අපි ගත්තොත් පැලවත්ත වගේ එකක්. හරිද? market growth rate එක තොන්න milk powder වලට වැඩි වෙනවා. හරිද? පැලවත්ත market share එක වැඩි. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? high. දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් පැලවත්ත කට්ටිය තියෙනවනේ ගොඩාක් products මොනවද තියෙන්නේ? So that they have milk powder, they have cheese, that they have butter. But when it comes to පැලවත්ත milk powder, their market share is very high. Market growth rate is also high. So when it comes to this kind of a product, we call this as a star. A star because there is a high growth rate in the market and high market share. So you know, growth rate milk powder. So we expect that next year that there will be an increment in milk powder demand. So then there is a high potential of increasing profit in future, right? So that is there. So what will happen? You need මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ මේ වගේ business unit වලට දිගින් දිගටම invest කරන්න ඕනේද නැද්ද? So you have to invest in these kind of businesses in order to grow them. So those are known as the stars. Right? Stars කියලා කියන්නේ ඒ වගේ business unit. හරිද? ඊළඟට තියෙනවා ළමයි cash cows. හරිද? Cash cows කියලා කියන්නේ ළමයි so the relative market growth rate එක අඩුයි but the market share is high. So if you just think about a product like sunlight, හරිද? මොකද sunlight ගැන හිතෙන්නේ? sunlight එක කියලා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද product එක? So it's a සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි ගන්නේ මොනවාද? මේවා එකක් තියෙන්නේ washing soap එකක්ද? හරිද? ගත්තාම සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔයාලට හිතෙන්නේ ඒවට තියෙන demand එක කොහොමද? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ගත්තාම මිනිස්සු හැමෝම දැන් පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ either washing powder. Sometimes most of the people now they don't even use washing powder, that they use washing liquid or washing capsules, right? So now they don't even use washing powder. So when it comes to this detergent soap, right, the demand for the detergent soap is really decreasing. Market growth rate. But when it comes to sunlight, how do you think? Still, the people, when they need a detergent soap, that they specifically ask for the sunlight. අපි මොකක් හරි ඩිටර්ජන්ට් සෝප් එකක් අහුව ඕන වුණාම අපි ගිහිල්ලා අහන්නේ සන්ලයිට් තියනවද කියලා. අර පැම්පස් වගේ තමයි අර ඩයපර් කියලා අහන්නේ නෑනේ. අපි සමහරලාට ගන්නේ කාඩ් එසේ වුණාට ඉල්ලන්නේ පැම්පස් කියලා. Because the product brand name is close than the product name. And detergent soap එකකට එහෙම අපි රිදිසෝදන සබන් එකක් කියනකොට අපි කියලා කියන්නේ සන්ලයිට් කැලක් දෙන්න කියලා. So when you have a product like that, what will happen? So the market growth rate is decreasing, but still market share for your product is really high. Sometimes when it comes to the products like this, අපිට මේ product අයින් කරන්න බෑ අපේ product portfolio එකෙන්, because when it comes to the sunlight ළමයි, if you just think about the Unilever, so that was the earliest product, that was the very first product that introduced the Unilever brand into the Sri Lankan market. So it has a kind of a heritage, it has a kind of a story that is related to product. So it's not easy to remove that particular product from the Unilever range because of this uniqueness that it has added to the Unilever brand. Right? Market share. So we call this kind of product as cash cow. Right? Low growth rate, but the market share is high. So when it comes to these brands, so they are very stable, very successful SBUs. It's really difficult to remove these SBUs from the product portfolio because it's making cash. So it's produced cash, but when it comes to this category, you don't invest more in this. Selectively තමයි අපි මේකට invest කරන්නේ because it gives you the cash. සමහර වෙලාවට මේකෙන් එන cash ටික අපි දානවා මෙන්න මේ දෙකට. One, so that is there. So question marks. So what are question marks? Question marks කියලා කියන්නේ that there is issue with the company. Why is issue in the company? Because there is a growth in the industry, but your market share is low. So you have to understand reason. Right? So if you just think about the Highland now, Highland milk powder ka ganna. Right? So if you just think about the growth rate for the milk powder, demand for the milk powder is growing. Now it has been increased from last year to this year. But still, when it comes to your market share, Highland market share, so that is so now you should understand that there is problem with your company. අපේ company එක මොකක්ද තියෙනවා. මොකද මේ powder වලට වැඩි වෙනකොට ඇයි Highland stock market share එක අඩු වෙන්නේ. So you should understand it. Because when it comes to the growth rate, high growth rate is there, but your market share is low. So what you can do, you can create this into star, right? So you need more cash. You can create, increase your market share. So how to do this? You have to understand the issue. Probably when you're searching for, probably when you search for Highland case, so that might be their distributional channel. So you might see that in the market, we don't know where those products even. වෙනම තියෙනවා outlet තියෙනවා රජයේ තැනකින් හදන්නේ, but still we don't find it there. So there might be a small critical issue within production process and the distributional channel. So you should understand that question marks. Right? So there is an issue. Right? So that's why I say when it comes to the cash, that is increase in the cash cow can be put into the question marks in order to improve their processes, production processes, as well as the distributional channels. Right? So the next figure is known as the dogs. Dogs කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? බල්ලට ගියා කියලා මම කියලා තමයි. Dogs කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Market share එකත් අඩුයි, growth rate එකත් අඩුයි. Can you keep eye on this kind of product? Can you have a hope on this? No, because low growth and low share, so very low probability of having profit in future, low profit potential. So what you can do, you can phase out and you can take them away from your business portfolio. Then business portfolio design you can take it out. You can say that no, there is no use of maintaining this particular unit now. So we can take it off. We can apply the detergent powder deal so just take it off. Right, so that is there. So these are the different type of strategic business unit that might have in your organization that is based on the relative market share and the market growth rate. So based on this analysis, you can think about where you're gonna invest and where you're gonna invest more and where you're gonna invest less or you're gonna fix some. So that is the basic purpose of doing this kind of an analysis. So the next thing is analyzing current SKUs, that is through another model. When you have a complex product portfolio, then ඉස්සෙල්ලම කතා කරේ මේක ගැනනේ. මේ අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලම කතා කරේ Boston BCG matrix එක ගැන. අපි මේකට කියන්නේ BCG matrix කියලා. So we call it Boston Consulting Group approach. BCG එක නැතුව sometimes we use something called GE matrix. So that has been developed by McKinsey Group. So you know that there is a particular which is known as McKinsey. ඒගොල්ලෝ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ගොඩක් business solution develops කරනවා. Right? So this is the team that developed this particular method. Again, අපිට business portfolio analyze කරන්න methods දෙකක් තියෙනවා. So you can analyze the business portfolio by using two methods. The first one is the BCG matrix. The next one is the GE matrix. So why we have GE matrix is that when you have a complex portfolio, right? So when you have a complicated portfolio, then it is difficult for you to take the decision. Right? This is because each product will have its own demand and requirements. Right? But when it comes to yourself, you have limited resources within the company. So this is the problem, right? අපි අර කතා කරනකොට හැමදාම කියන්නේ business subjects වල base එක තමයි limited resources. So if you have enough resources, then you can do the trial and you can go in trial and error basis and you can invest and check. But still, when it comes to the businesses, that there is the scarcity in resources. So what you have to do as a business manager, you have to look at to ensure that the firms grow in a kind of an optimum rate by using minimum resources. For this, what you have to do is that you have to support some products by investing money in them. Right? Sometimes you have to hold some products by letting them be as they are. And also sometimes you have to prune some products which are not working as well as you thought. හරිද? මේ වගේ portfolio එකක් තියෙනකොට මම අර කිව්වා වගේ මොකද කරන්න ඕනේ? සමහර ඒවා ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරලා තියා ගන්නවා, සමහර වෙලාවට පොඩ්ඩක් සෙල්ලම් තියා ගන්නවා, සමහර ඒවා අයින් කරලා ගන්නවා. So this decision making on products, so that is done by GE McKinsey metrics. So this is what we're going to study now. So when it comes to GE McKinsey metrics, so it also has two main variables which are plotted on the X and Y axis of the metrics. So the first variable is the market attractiveness, and the second axis is business unit strength. Right. So when we talk the product. Once each product is given a value for its market attractiveness as well as the business unit strength, then you can plot it in the right place in the graph. Make it. කියලා අපි හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන්. Sometimes we call this GE McKinsey matrix as a 9-box matrix because you can see that there are 9 boxes here. Right? So when it comes to this particular matrix, once the product is in its place, then you can, when this places, whatever the place, you can decide whether it's in green area, yellow area, or red area. So based on place, you can decide the strategy for the product. Right? අපි මේ කලර්ස් වලින් පෙන්නලා තියෙන්නේ අන්න ඒ ස්ට්‍රැටජි තුන. ඒ කියන්නේ green වලට දාන්න එක ස්ට්‍රැටජි එකක්, yellow වලට දාන්න එක ස්ට්‍රැටජි එකක්, red වලට දාන්නේ එක ස්ට්‍රැටජි එකක්. Right? අපි බලමු ළමයි ඉස්සෙල්ලාම business strength එක කියන්නේ මොකද? Industry මේකත් හරි. මේ වචන දෙකක් මේ business strength එක කියන්නේ industry attractiveness is something very similar to the things that you have studied in BCG matrix. So instead of the relative market share and the market growth rate, here we use the business strength and here we use the business strength and industry. One second. Here we use the business strength and the industry attractiveness. Business strength එක කියලා කියන්නේ ඔයාගේ market share එක වගේම ඔයාගේ business එකේ strength එක. Industry attractiveness එක කියලා කියන්නේ අර industry growth rate එක කියලා කිව්වේ. Okay? Industry එකක් විදිහට ඒක කොච්චර attractive ද කියන එක. So based on these things that you can have 9 blocks. පළවෙනි එක තමයි business strength එක වැඩි, industry attractiveness එකක් වැඩි. එහෙනම් මේක හොඳයි. ඊළඟට business strength එක average but industry attractiveness එක වැඩි. ඒකත් හොඳයි. So මේක business strength එක වැඩි, industry attractiveness එක average. So that is also good. හරිද? මේ තියෙන ඒවායි තියෙන්නේ business strength එක weak but industry attractiveness එක strong. හරිද? මේකේ business strength එක average but industry attractiveness එක medium. මේකද වෙන්නේ business strength එක strong but industry attractiveness එක average. මේක ගත්තහම හැම එකම combination එක low එකක් වෙයි. මේක weak but මේක average. මේක weak, මේකත් weak, මේක average, මේක weak. Average weak combinations තමයි මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. හරිද? strong weak combination එකක්වත් නැහැ. මේක තියෙන ගොඩක් වෙලාවට strong combination එහෙම නැත්නම් strong average combination. මේක තියෙන ගොඩක් වෙලාවට strong weak එහෙම නැත්නම් average weak combination එක. මේක තියෙන්නේ average weak and average weak combinations විතරයි. Right? So based on these combination or decide කරන්න පුළුවන් ඔයාගේ product එක ඉන්නේ මේකද ඔය ඕන තැන. So based on that you can develop your strategy. මේ green වල ඉන්නේවට අපි කියනවා they can use the growth strategy. හරිද? මේ yellow වල ඉන්නේවට අපි කියනවා they can use the whole strategy. මේ red වල ඉන්නේවට අපි කියනවා they can use the harvest strategy. So the growth strategy in a sense that you are ready to invest in a kind of a higher percentage. Right? So you can invest a higher percentage of your resources in these businesses. ඔයාගේ business එක මෙන්න මේ A හරි B හරි තැනක නම් ඉන්නේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඔයාලට පුළුවන් ගොඩක් invest කරන්න මේකේ කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැතුව ඔයාගේ resources. Right? Because these business units have high market attractiveness and they have high business unit strength. Right? So they are the businesses that most likely to be successful if you back up with more resources. Right? So the quadrants that is marked in green are the places where you can grow your business. Right? Now we're going to talk about the quadrants that is marked in yellow. Right? So if the business units are strength or attractiveness is average, right? So if you got the business unit strength ekai, attractiveness ekai average, then what will happen? You have to hold the business as it is. ගොඩක් ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි සාමාන්‍ය කරන් ආපු විදියට කරන් යනවා. Might be that the market සමහර වෙලාවට මේක attractive නැති වෙන්න හේතුව වෙන්න පුළුවන් ඒ වෙලාවේදී මොකක් හරි drop එකක් වෙලා තියෙනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන් market එකේ. So it might be that the market is dropping in value or that there is a kind of a much high competition which the business unit will be hard to put it in order. Right? So in any way දැන් හිතන්න ගොඩක් වෙලාවට සමහර වෙලාවට කොවිඩ් වෙලාවට මොකද වුනේ ටුවරිසම් සෙක්ටර් එක අඩු වුණා. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒ වෙලාවේ කන්ඩිෂන් එක හරි නෑ. එහෙම කියලා අපි හෝටල් ටික ඔක්කොම වහලා දාන්නවද? මේ බිස්නස් එකේ එහෙම වෙන්නේ නෑ. ඒ වෙලාවේදී අපි නිකන් ගොඩාක් ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්නේ නැතුව කීපයක් විතරක් අරගෙන පොඩ්ඩක් මිනිමම් විදිහට යනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් ලොකු කම්පිටිටර් කෙනෙක් අපිට ඉන්නවා වෙන්න පුළුවන් මේ වෙලාවේදී. ඒක නිසා අපේ බිස්නස් ස්ට්‍රෙන්ත් එක අඩු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රියල් ඇට්‍රැක්ටිව්නස් එකයි බිස්නස් ස්ට්‍රෙන්ත් එකයි reduce වෙන්න පුළුවන් for some reason. So you have to wait until the things change, right? But you cannot switch off, phase out your business until that, right? මොකද කරන්නේ? එතකොට අපි මේක මේ විදිහටම maintain කරනවා, right? So in both cases, the business unit might not give the optimum returns, even if you invest the resources. I mean, even if the resources are invested, right? So in that case, what you have to do, you have to wait and hold the business unit to see if the market environment changes or see if the business unit gain importance in the market as compared to other players. දැන් COVID ඉවර වෙනකල් බලන් ඉන්නවා. වෙන කම්පිටිටර් කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා නම් අපි ටිකක් බලන් ඉන්නවා එයා පල්ලෙහාට යනකල්. ඒ වෙනකල් අපි කොහොම හරි business එක hold කරගන්නවා. So the yellow color one we call the hold strategy. Now we're going to talk about the red one, so which is known as the harvest. And so if your business unit or the market has become unattractive, right, then what you have to do? Then අපේ මේක අපේ business strength එකක් ගොඩාක්ම weak, ඒ වගේම industry එකක attractiveness. So what you have to do? So you have to either sell or liquidate the business, or you can hold it for any residual value that it has. Right, so this is known as harvest. So this strategy is used in the GE McKinsey matrix when the business unit strength is weak and the market has lost its attractiveness. Right? So the best measure in this case is to harvest the weak businesses and reinvest the money earned into business unit which are in growth area. මේ වයින් කරලා මේ investment එක මෙන්න ඒවට දාන එක තමයි කරන්න ඕනේ. So if when you by using the GE McKinsey matrix, you can manage your product portfolio efficiently and you can take the right decision whether you have to grow, hold, or harvest. Right? So these are the three strategies of McKinsey matrix. How are the general electric matrix? So this is known as GE matrix of McKinsey. Make it in three strategies. So that is grow, hold, harvest. Right? So that is there. And now we are going to talk about market growth strategies, developing growth strategies. So then අපි කියවනේ strategic business unit එකක් තේරුවට පස්සේ, right? අපි දැන් තෝරනවානේ business portfolio එකේ තියා ගන්න ඕනේ මොනවාද? දැන් අපි කිව්වේ මේක අපි තීරණය කරනවා මොනවාද කරන්නේ? මොනවාද decisions කිව්වේ? පළවෙනි එක grow කිව්වා, දෙවෙනි එක කිව්වා hold කියලා, තුන්වෙනි එක කිව්වා harvest කියලා. You got to grow. How grow it? So that is the first strategy. Now you decide grow this green color area. So how can you grow it? So that's why you want growth strategies. Okay. So if you want to start knowing all about the growth of the company, then you need to start with the definition of the growth strategy. Right? So what does it mean by the growth strategy? Right? To define the growth strategy, we can only say that it's a kind of a plan that needs action to achieve higher level in the market share than what we already have as a company. Right? Then අපිට growth වෙනවා කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Growth එකක් කියන්නේ expansion එකක්. Expansion එකක් ගන්නෙ කොහොමද? අපිට අද market share එකක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒක වඩා වැඩි කරගන්න එක තමයි එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. So definitely, right? So if you have a plan, if you need to take an action to achieve high market share than what you already have, so that is known as market growth strategy. Right? So although when it comes to the definition, it sounds simple to do, but implementation is quite difficult with many different steps. Right? So this is matrix which is developed by ANSOF. We call this as ANSOF matrix. So that is the fundamental framework that teach you I mean, when it comes to not only you guys, when it comes to the all the business schools worldwide. So the ends of metrics is the fundamental framework that is taught by business schools worldwide, right? So when it comes to this, it has two axes again, x-axis and y-axis, x-axis and y-axis. Here you have, so here you have x-axis, right? So here you have the x-axis and the y-axis. So the product is the x-axis, or may pay on product කියලා තියෙන්නේ, existing product කියලා තියෙන්නේ. අන්න ඒක තමයි what do you call x-axis එක. ඒතර y පැත්තේ තියෙනවා market එක. Products on the x-axis and on the y-axis. So when it comes to concept of the market, so that it has two different thing. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ගත්තාම market එකකට යනවා කිව්වහම දෙකක් mean වෙනවා, right? The concept of the market has two dimensions, two different things. It could be a different geography. Like if the Asian product goes to North America or Europe, so it's a different market, right? So it's one dimension. And also when you go to another customer segment, හිතන්නකෝ අපි කියනවා baby soap, fair and lovely බලන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලාම අපි කතා කරේ women market එක ගැන විතරයි. Now we're talking about the fair handsome. So that's also different market, right? Market එකක් අලුත් market එකක් කියන එකෙන් දෙකක් අදහස් කරනවා. So that's a different geography as well as a different customer segment. So this matrix is used to evaluate relative attractiveness of the growth strategies as well as the level of risk associated with each, right? So when we're talking about this Ansoff matrix, Ansoff matrix again, people. So here we are going to talk about these stuff. So here you have the existing products, here you have the new products, here you have the existing markets, here you have the new markets. So ඒ කියන්නේ මේකෙදි අපි මේ x-axis එකේදී කතා කරන්නේ product එක අලුත් එකක්ද, product එක තියෙන එකක්ද, market එක අලුත් එකක්ද, market එක existing එකක්ද. So based on these items, you can have four quadrants, right? So you can have four boxes. So these are the growth strategies that you can adapt in your business. මේව තමයි අපිට adapt කරගන්න පුළුවන් businesses වෙන්නේ. එතකොට මේ විදිහට අපිට adapt කරගන්න පුළුවන් business strategies හතරක් තියෙනවා. So the market penetration, market development, product development and diversification. So first we'll talk about the market penetration. Market penetration එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? තියෙන product එකම තියෙන market එක. ඒ කියන්නේ geographical වෙනසක් වෙනවද? නැහැ. Market segment එකේ වෙනසක් වෙනවද? නැහැ. Product එකේ වෙනසක් වෙනවද? නැහැ. Nothing would change. Existing product, existing market. So how can you expand this kind of a market? Product එකත් වෙනස් කරන්නේ නැතුව, වෙන geography එකකට යන්නෙත් නැතුව, market segment එක වෙනස් කරන්නේත් නැතුව, how can you expand your business? So that is definitely through the advertising, market penetration. Advertising කරලා sales වැඩි කරගෙන තමයි. So you have to increase your sales through promotions. So that is known as the market penetration. So what does it mean by the penetration? Theory market එකේම ඇතුළට යනවා කියන එක තමයි market penetration එක කියලා කියන්නේ. So what do you think about the market penetration? How do you feel? So do you invest in new product? Do you invest in new markets? No. So the investment is very low. So it's only for the advertising and the commercial. So the risk is very, very low, the least risky, right? So when you are employing a market penetration strategy, so the management that they see that they need to sell more of its existing products into the markets that they are familiar with, right? Not to the new one, where they have existing relationship, right? So when it comes to this strategy, you can use what are the strategies that you can use to implement the market penetration? කොහොමද market penetration එක වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්? පළවෙනි එක තමයි advertising. දෙවෙනි එක distribution channel වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් නේද? අපේ distribution අපි වැඩි කරනවා. product එකේ වෙනසක් කරාද? නැහැ. market එකේ වෙනසක් කරන්න නැහැ. අපි අපේ distribution channels විතරක් වැඩි කරනවා. So you can increase and streamline your distributional process, right? Or else you can reduce your prices to attract new customers within the market, right? So you can acquire your competitor to the same markets, right? So that is there. So if you can consider the businesses that sells into the grocery chain, then the management might seek greater preparation by changing their prices or by looking at the larger chains, right? So that's how you can do the market penetration. Market penetration එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක. කොහොමද market එකට penetrate වෙන්න පුළුවන්? Market rate කොහොමද අපි කියන්නේ product එක වෙනස් කරන්නේත් නැතුව, market එක වෙනස් කරන්නේත් නැතුව, අලුත් market එකට යන්නේත් නැතුව කොහොමද අපි sales වැඩි කරගන්නේ? එකක් තමයි price කරන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපේ distribution channels හොඳට වැඩි කරගන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපේ competitor කෙනෙක්ගේ මොකක් හරි දෙයක් activate කරගන්න පුළුවන්. So that is known as market penetration. So the next thing is the market development. Market development කියලා කියන්නේ existing product එක, but you're going to a new market. So you're going to a new market, existing product but to a new market. So what can happen? Market එක අලුත් product එකේ කිසිම වෙනසක් කරනවද? නැහැ. So this is දැන් product අලුතෙන් හදනවා කියන්නේ නම් ගොඩක් ලොකු සල්ලියක් යනවා. ඒ මාකට් එකට යනකොට අරකට වඩා වැඩියෙන් සල්ලි යනවා. But still, if you're going to develop a new product, so then you have to bear huge cost. So then the risk is high when you try to develop a new product. So when it comes to the market development, so it's not much riskier than the product development. මේක තරම් risk නෑ market එක develop කරන එක. හරිද? So what can happen when you are developing the market? Market එකක් develop කරනකොට ළමයි, so as I said you before, so this strategy is next least risky because it does not require significant investment for the research and development or product development, right? So how can you do this? කොහොමද අපි market එකක් develop කරන්නේ? අපි හිතමු ඔයාගේ දැන් ඔයා tea market එක ගත්තාම ඔයා මොකක් හරි tea producer කෙනෙක් ලංකාව ඇතුලේ විතරක් තියෙනවා. දැන් ඔයා මේක අරගෙන යන්න යනවා යුරෝප් වලට. So it's new market, right? So that is there. So on the other hand, if you just think about the Fair and Lovely, they had women-based product. Now they are targeting for men. That is through Fair Handsome. So it's a new market, right? So different customer segment, right? Or you are going to different domestic market, right? Different international market. So that is known as a market development. සමහර වෙලාවට දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් soft logic වගේ global ගත්තාම තියෙන්නේ suburb සමහර urban area වල විතරයි. අපි යනවා වෙන තැනකට regional expansion එකකට. So it's also market development, right? So these are the examples, right? That is there. Then the next thing is the new product development. What is the new product development? So that is for the existing market, but you are developing a new product. හරිද? දැන් අපි ගත්තාම shampoo එකක් L'Oreal වලින් හරිද? Women market එක තමයි. Still you are having a new product. මොනවාද new product එක? අපි කියනවා හරි conditioner shampoo වලට අමතර conditioner දානවා. shampoo ගත්තාම වෙන different line එකක්ම හදනවා products. හරිද? smooth කට්ටියට වෙනම damage hair වලට වෙනම it's product development. Still for the existing market. Right? So that is known as a product development. So that is the most that is the next riskiest. අඩු මේක මොකක්ද? මේක තමයි risk එක අඩුම. ඊට පස්සේ මේක වැඩි. ඊළඟට product development එකේ වැඩි. අය market එක develop කරනවට වඩා product එකක් develop කරනකොට you have to invest in research and development. So that is there. So the diversification is the most riskiest place where you have a new product as well as the new market. Market එකත් අලුත්, product එකත් අලුත්, the risk එක හරියම වැඩි. හරිද? ඒකට අපි කියනවා diversification කියලා. Okay, so that is known as the diversification. Right, so these are the market growth strategies. So if you decide that you're gonna, if you decide that you are going to start your expand your business, grow your business. So these are the strategies that you have in your hand. Right, so you have the market penetration, you have the product development, you have the market development, and you have the diversification. Right. So this is what I said, that these are the strategies: market penetration, market development, product development, and diversification. So these are the growth strategies. So once you do the business portfolio, once you analyze the business portfolio, and you're going to decide whatever the business unit that you're going to have, So according to the GE matrix, that we had three strategies, that is grow, hold, or harvest. So if you decide to grow your business, so how can you expand your business? So either you can develop the product, either you can develop the market, either you can develop both. So this is what happened. So the market penetration, in a sense, that you're not going to develop the market, no, that neither you're going to develop the market, no product. What you are going to do, that you're going to do use some other strategies like increasing distributional channels, reducing prices, and advertising. Market penetration එකේදී අපි product එක develop කරන්නෙත් නෑ, market එකක් develop කරන්නෙත් නෑ. Market development වෙලදී මොකද කරන්නේ? You develop the new market with the current product. So how can you do? You can identify the demographic or geographic areas to take your market products, right? So the product, in a sense, you're offering modified or new products to the current consumers. So you do not change the market, just the product, right? So how can you do? New styles can be done, flavors, colors, modified products are there. The diversification, in a sense, new products for the new market. So if you're going to start up or buy new business, so that is known as a diversification, right? So this is the business strategic planning process. So as I said you before, that it has four steps කියලා මම කියන්නේ. පටන් ගන්නකොට මම කියන්නේ ඉස්සෙල්ලාම business vision එක තියෙනවා, ඊළඟට objectives තියෙනවා. ඔය වගේ හදන්න යද්දි මේ තියෙන්නේ. So you are starting with the business vision. So in order to make the business vision, so you should have an idea about your organization. ඒකට අපි කරන්න ඕනේ organization environment එක analyze කරන්න ඕනේ. අපි ගත්තහම organization environment එක, you know that you have the internal environment as well as the external environment. So once you analyze the internal environment එක analyze කරාම ඔයාලට මොනවද හම්බෙන්නේ? Strength and weaknesses. Once you analyze the external environment, you will be getting the opportunities and threats. So we can use opportunities, threats, strength, and weaknesses to do the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis can strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So when you have the weaknesses, you always try to convert into the strengths. When you have opportunities, you always try to match your strength with the opportunities. ඊට පස්සේ මොකද කරන්නේ? අපි දැන් අපේ organization එක analyze කරලා අපේ capacity එක බලනවා. අපිට තියෙන strength මොනවද? අපිට තියෙන weaknesses මොනවද? market එකේ තියෙන opportunities මොනවද? ඕවා බලලා තමයි අපි අපේ objectives හදන්න ඕනේ. objectives හැදුවොත් සමහර වෙලාවට අපිට ඒවා achieve වෙයි. ඇයි? ඒක දැන් අපි කිව්ව sales team එකට ඔයා sales වැඩි කරන්න 100%. අපිට පුළුවන් එච්චර invest කරන්න බෑ. අපිට පුළුවන් දෙයක achieve කරන්න බෑ. So you have to understand your strength, weaknesses as well as the opportunities in the market. එච්චර විකුණන්නත් බෑ සමහර වෙලාවට 100%ක් වැඩි කරා. හරිද? So when you are setting your objectives, you have to analyze your internal and external environment. As well, when you are setting your objectives, they have to be aligned with your mission. මං කියේ mission එක හැමතිස්සෙම goal align වෙන්න ඕනේ. හරිද? ඊට පස්සේ තමයි ඔයාගේ strategy formulate කරන්නේ. goals හදලා ඊළඟට අපි කිව්වේ අර අපි business portfolio එක analyze. So you decide whatever the strategic business unit that you're going to have and whatever the strategies that you're going to hold. අපි grow කරනවද, hold කරනවද, grow යනවා නම් අපේ මොනවද strategy වෙන්න ඕනේ? market penetration, the market මොනවද penetration, the product development, the diversity, and the product development. So you have to think about the 4 strategies, whatever the thing that you're gonna do. Then you have to do the program formulation. One of the program, how I'm gonna decide my 4 P's: product, price, place, promotion. ඊළඟට අපි implementation එකට යනවා. Then you are going to get the feedback and you have to do the control. So this is the business strategic planning process, right? So in marketing process තමයි So when it comes to the marketing process, that there is a huge process that has been developed by the, how you're going to implement the market, how you're going to develop the market, so that there is a process. So this is the process that is by the Kotler, right? So the Kotler says that you have to first analyze your, mama, මට මීටින් එකක් තියෙනවා මම මේක දැන් මෙතන නවත්තන්න. හරිද? මම අර කිව්වා වගේ මම අද මේ අපි ලෙක්චර් එකක් කැන්සල් වුණ හින්දා අපිට මේක කැන්සල් කරන්න බැරි හින්දා සෙෂන් එක අපි අද මේක කරේ. අපිට තව ප්‍රොපර් සෙෂන්ස් දෙකක් තියෙනවා. So මේ ටික අපිට මේ ප්‍රොපර් සෙෂන් එකෙන් කවර් කරන්න පුළුවන්. හරිද? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stop the lesson for today, and there will be 2-hour session tomorrow for the Sunday group 2. And next week, Dr. Erandi will be doing the lectures, that she was the person who's supposed to do the lectures today, right? So she was out of the country. So that's why I decided to do this lecture, because I just thought that why should I keep you? I mean, ඔයාලට නිවාඩු දෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ කියලා හිතුනේ හින්දා. එතකොට ලබන තව සති දෙකක් අපිට ප්‍රොපර් මේකට හම්බෙන හින්දා අපි මේ වෙලාවේදී මේක කරමු. ඔයාලට මේ වෙද්දී එක්සෑම්ස් ඔක්කොම තියලා ඉවරයි නේද කරපු ඒවා? දැනට කරපු සෙෂන්ස් වල එක්සෑම් කරලාද තියෙන්නේ? ආලම මම නිකන් ෆීඩ්බැක් එකක් ගන්න අහන්නේ මේ. ඔක්කොම එක්සෑම්ස් ඉවරයි නේද? අර දැනට කරන්නේ දැන් ඔය අචිනි අමන්දයි ડોක්ටර් එරන්දී කරන එක තමයි ඊට පස්සේ කරන්න තියෙන එකම එකනේ. Oh, as I remember, Achini and Amanda did the lessons last week. Next week, that Dr. Erandi need to do the next session, right? So right after that, you will get the examination for that particular session. Is it? එහෙම නේද? එතකල් ඔක්කොම කරලා තියෙන්නේ දැනට. එහෙමනේ. අචිනිගේ අමන්දාගේ එකක සෙෂන් එක ඉවරයිනේ නේ? මම බලන්න. අන්තිමට තිබ්බ එක්සෑම් එක මොකක්ද ෆාහි? Oh, we have someone is asking about the closing. I mean, someone is policy environment නේ. හරි එහෙනම් අචිනිලගේ එක තාම තිබිලා නැහැ. හරි මම කියන්නේ. Someone is asking about the the end date of the program. Actually, we have if you can remember, we have started on March. So as we have started on March, that we will be ending our coursework on next March, right? Courseworks on next March. Then you have to sit for the final examination. So that is within another month. So it will take another month to release the results, because we have to send our results to the examination branch for the release, right? So it will take another month. So then most probably that we will be able to release your results by March, April. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ මුල තමයි නම. මොකද ඒප්‍රිල් කියන්නේ season නේ. So definitely that will be the beginning of May. So that's how we have scheduled the things. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපේ කෝස් එකේ නම් හැම ගොඩ කාලයක් යන්නෙම නෑ ළමයි. අපි මෙච්චර කාලෙම අවුට් කරා හරියට සෙකන්ඩ් ඉන්ටේක් එකේ විතරක් මේ කොවිඩ් කේස් එකක පිටින්ද පොඩ්ඩක් ඩිලේ වුණා. ඒත් යාළගෙත් දැන් නම් රිසර්ච් ඔක්කොම යවලා තියෙන රිලීස් කරන්න විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. Okay, if you don't have any question, we can wind up the session, right? So we'll meet. I'll be doing the next session. I mean, the Sunday session tomorrow. That is only for 2 hours, and we will be meeting again with the second session of marketing. There will be 2 weeks, second and third session, right? So thank you very much, Ramesh. If you have any question, please. Just send that question to the group of Fahim, and he will send me the question, and I'll try to answer in possible manner. I'll try to give a solution in a possible manner, right? So thank you very much.